end of time.
O'clock.
Well, hey everybody, what's going on? And it's Wednesday night.
Yep.
And it's the main show.
Yep. We got kind of a creepy one. Disappearances out in the wild.
Yes. Missing
Weird.
411.
People going missing out in these fucking national parks. Weird shit.
It is, yeah. And I kind of feel like, here's the thing. Because I've been wanting to, I think one of you guys recommended this a long time ago. The thing about the whole missing 411 phenomena, I hesitate to call it a conspiracy theory, although it's kind of trends in that direction. But the thing about it is that it's so massive, the number of cases that the dude has written about that fall under this umbrella, that it took me a really long time to kind of winnow through cases and pick ones that I thought were interesting. Because to be honest with you, a lot of the ones that turn up on these missing 411 lists, I don't know if there's anything all that mysterious about them, even if the person was never found. Because, people go hiking, they go mountain climbing, they go shit like that, and then it's and they disappear and they're never seen again. I'm like, that's not that strange. I mean, it's the wilderness, there's a lot of things that could happen so that the body is never found. So I kind of tried to pick ones where the circumstances were a bit weirder, but I don't know. Any time that somebody goes missing and you never find them, yeah, that's inherently creepy. But I'm gonna say that I don't know if David Paulides, I guess Paulides is how you pronounce his last name. He's written about it, and I don't know if he's said in any of his, because he's written 10 books at least about this phenomenon. He's written a bunch of other books about Bigfoot and shit too, but he's written 10 books about missing 411 type books. So he's compiled thousands of cases, and I don't know if he's ever said outright that he has his own YouTube channel and shit like that, which I saw a couple things on there, but I don't know if he's ever said outright that he thinks that some of the weirder cases under the missing 411 umbrella are some inexplicable thing that's, you know what I mean? I kind of feel like he's maybe implying that a Sasquatch is taking these people, or they're falling into an interdimensional rift, or
He's probably talking about Sasquatch.
kidnapped by aliens, or
He's probably talking about interdimensional Sasquatch.
Something.
He's talking about
I don't know if he's
interdimensional
ever
Sasquatch.
said that outright.
Spiritual Sasquatch.
Yeah, because he is a big Bigfoot guy.
Yeah.
And he actually wrote books about Bigfoot before he
Yeah.
started the missing 411 ones. But that said, though, all of the cases that because I read a bunch of kind of skeptical stuff about it too, but all the cases that he wrote about in his books are real cases. He didn't just make them up. And he did report them fairly accurately. And it is true that he did try to do FOIA requests on some of the cases and were refused. I don't think there's a nefarious reason for that, but that is kind of another reason that he thinks maybe some of these cases are there's some kind of cover-up going on. That's why I say it's trending toward conspiracy theory kind of territory. So I don't really know. Like I said, I tried to get a handle on, because like I said, this is thousands of cases that he wrote about. So I tried to get a handle on what some of the weirder ones are, the ones that I thought were the most interesting, or the ones that came up the most often, in other people's videos and stuff, so I could get a sense of which ones were the creepiest or whatever. And even some of those ones, when I listen to the details and stuff, I'm that's creepy, but it doesn't seem that weird. It doesn't seem that inexplicable. Yeah. But you know what I mean? So I don't know, make of that what you will. I just chose some random ones that we'll be talking about later, and hopefully you guys find them interesting. I found them interesting anyways, so there's that.
Yeah, I can chip in on this one because I got a lot of experience with this. I'm ex-military, airborne infantry, and did 2 years in a recon platoon, 1st 327 Recon out of the 101st Airborne Division. I'm a land navigation master, all right? Just map and compass, none of this GPS shit. Just, I'll tell you where my coordinates are, and you tell me the coordinates you want to go to, and you try to get there. And it's fucking harder than you think to do that shit. Sometimes it's 15 miles, 10 miles, and it may not be a straight shot. You don't know how much time you have to get there. To just say kind of do your best, and you know what I mean? So you don't know how hard you're supposed to push yourself. But living out in the field, I'm well aware of it. I'm totally aware of how easy it is to get lost.
Oh yeah, big time.
I totally know the mistakes that rookies would make, and when it came to field survival. You know, I've been in Korea, out in the field, freezing cold in the winter. You make a wrong move out there, you're gonna die. And I almost got killed out there, at least once. Almost froze to death. I told a story before. Started hallucinating and walked off the fucking line.
He hallucinated in McDonald's.
Yeah, I thought I was going to McDonald's. My friend Chapino, a little Mexican dude, man, he's like my bro. Fucking, where you going? Where you going, Ross? I'm going to McDonald's, man. Ain't no McDonald's, man. We're in Korea. I was like, oh,
yeah. I'm gonna go get some coffee and some hash
I
browns.
could see
It's freezing
McDonald's,
cold out
the
here.
hash browns, the coffee. I could see I could see the lights shining over the crest of the hill.
Yeah.
I could swear that's where McDonald's was. You know, some of this stuff goes off to that Dyatlov Pass incident with those people that
Yeah.
got lost on that Russian expedition, that Russian camping trip or hiking trip.
Yeah, they didn't get lost necessarily. They just
got
all,
lost,
they
but
just
they
all
died.
Yeah, they just all died.
They found them. They looked all fucked up, but we did that show. I know what happened to them. Yeah. Cold weather injury. What do they call it? Hypothermia. Because you start going crazy as fucking shit. You know,
Yeah.
when you're hypothermic, you'll tear your own clothes off. You'll hallucinate. You just don't make any sense. That's why they found them up in trees and shit.
They weren't up in the trees.
What's that?
They weren't up in the trees.
I thought one of them went up in the tree
No, I don't think
for a
so.
while. Yeah, I thought somebody was up inside the tree.
I don't remember that.
Okay, maybe I got it confused with something else.
I kind of feel like a lot of the missing 411 stuff. It kind of reminds me. Remember that show we did about what was it, the Yuba County 5, which is still fucking weird as shit. I don't know what happened with that kind of crap. So it's like that kind of stuff. I don't, like I said, I don't believe that they were kidnapped by aliens or nothing, or Bigfoot or nothing like that. It's just that I have a hard time thinking. That's what's creepy to me, is like if I have a hard time thinking of the circumstances that led to that. I know they weren't paranormal, but I'm just kind of like, why the fuck did that happen? You know what I mean? Like there could have been like some other weird shit going on.
Yeah,
But
there was shit I was doing in recon scout platoon. A lot of times we were in what was called a recon element, which is only two men, and I was an RTO and then had a grenadier with me. Most of your recon elements are like that. And then we had then the fourth squad was snipers and spotters. They were our Overwatch. So I know what it would be like to be out in some of these fucking remote areas by yourself. I was never by myself. I was always at least with one other person. It won't let you go out by
which you
yourself.
always should be.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, it's not safe to go out on your own.
ideally, no.
But I can imagine what it would be like. It would fucking psychologically really beat you down if you were lost. Because you'd have nobody to fucking feed off of.
Yeah.
No one to keep you going.
Yeah.
You know, you'd get real like, I'm fucked, man. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm fucked. And you'd lose track of time and shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's what would happen to you. Your mind plays tricks on you out there. That's why you guys ever seen fucking Predator? Remember when fucking Jesse the Body says, boy, you'd lose, if you lost it out here, you'd be in a world of hurt. And he goes, yeah, man, this bush makes Cambodia look like Kansas. And what they were talking about is that you can just lose your fucking mind. You're just so tired. Branches keep hitting you as you're traveling, trying to get through the branches. They've got water on them. You get soaking wet, and you're just beyond tired. You're walking all night. And you just get so fucking frustrated. Your legs are so tired, and you're slipping and falling, and your fucking boots going into mud, and and every little fucking problem, it just wears on you. It's kind of like a trucker with white line fever, but it's worse because you're so exhausted, and it gets to the point where you just want to just fucking cry with frustration, but you got to just keep yourself together, and you can't talk to anybody because you're all spaced out, 10 meters. You can't bunch up. Everybody's got to be, so each man's in his own little hell. So I can imagine what it'd be like being out there on your own, and how you could get beat down and lost and just never be found, especially if you were a child. You'd be in a world of fucking hurt. Quick.
The weird thing about it, though, is that, and this isn't universally true, like across all the missing 411 cases, but it does seem like in more cases than not, when kids disappeared, a lot of times later they would find them alive. You know what I mean? Not so much with the people. Now, some of the kids, like I said, disappeared and they never found him, and we're going to talk about a couple of those cases too. But a couple times, like, the kid disappeared for a while, and then they found him, and then they, like, said weird shit, you know what I mean? Like, about where they'd been and stuff.
Yeah.
So there was that also.
They probably didn't know where they were.
I kind of feel like that too, probably. But yeah, and there's kind of a thing where, because I mean, I have heard about real cases where like a kid, not necessarily in a national park or anything, but just like wandered off and then ended up like walking like fucking 12 ass miles or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And then they found him alive like later on, and they're like, how the fuck did he get that fucking far?
'Cause
Like
he
it's
didn't
like a little bitty kid.
Because he didn't stop moving.
I guess not, because he's just like, oh, I guess I'm just gonna keep walking till
Yeah.
I find something.
Yeah,
Like they weren't thinking about it.
The
too much,
danger is
I
it
guess.
gets dark, it gets cold, and they lay down.
Yeah.
And they stop moving, and then
Yeah.
they die of hypothermia. That's what happens to most of them, I believe. Then the animals get them.
Yeah, Phantom said, I'm pretty sure y'all did a video about Dennis Martin. I thought we had, and I actually had him in the lineup for this, and then I thought, oh, wait a minute, I think we already talked about him on another, like, missing persons show, so I took it out and, like, replaced it with something else. Oh, the stuff up in the trees, Phantom said you're talking about the Todd C's UFO case.
Is that what it was?
What
Okay.
you're talking about.
All right.
Yeah, because I was like, yeah, the Dyatlov Pass, I don't remember anybody
Okay.
being up in a tree.
I thought they found a dead one frozen up in a tree.
No.
Okay.
They were all, like, in regular-ass positions.
Okay.
They were just all, a couple of them were frozen. And
Or
they
some
were
of
all...
the tree limbs were broken off or something. There was something like that. I don't remember. It might be confusing with other stuff.
Yeah, I think you might be.
Yeah.
But yeah, Phantom said it's super easy to get lost in the woods. Yeah, I mean, everything looks alike. And the thing about it is that even if... Because here's the thing. Even... when we talk about Dyatlov Pass, when he talks about the missing 411 cases, like, some of these people is like, oh, they were experienced hikers and they've been in this area before. And I'm like, yeah, but just because you're an experienced hiker, that doesn't mean you can't slip on a fucking rock and break your leg or get attacked by a mountain lion or something like that. Like, that doesn't... Like, a mountain lion or a bear doesn't care about how experienced you are.
Yeah.
If it comes up behind you. Like, yeah, you might have more... you might be more apt to survive because you kind of know the lay of the land and stuff than somebody that's just clueless, and you probably have more equipment and stuff. But just because you're real experienced doesn't mean that bad shit can't still happen to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Although it's rare to be attacked by a mountain lion. An adult. Kids have been attacked by them.
Yeah, they will usually jump on something smaller.
Something smaller, yeah. Although there was a case I knew a woman who was riding a mountain bike out there and a mountain lion jumped on her. But I don't think that mountain lion realized that was a person on a bicycle.
Maybe not.
I think it
it's
thought
just-
it was some kind of four-legged animal running.
Yeah, like it just saw something.
Yeah,
like,
by the
"Ooh,
time
I'm
they
gonna
got it didn't care what it was. Gotcha. You know.
Yeah.
It was a woman. She lived, though. Fucked her up bad, though.
Yeah, I'm just I'm gonna stay out of nature. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can just do its nature thing, like, over there. I'm just gonna stay in the house. I'm not one of these people. It's like, ooh, I'm gonna go out and conquer nature. I'm gonna go out in the wilderness and all this. Fuck
Yeah.
that shit. Fuck that shit. That's just like going out in the ocean. I'm gonna sail around the world in a tiny little boat. Fuck that.
Been
No
out in
thanks.
coniferous forests in
No
Korea.
thanks.
Swamps here in fucking down here in the south in Florida, all throughout fucking Kentucky and Tennessee, Yosemite National Forest, fucking Redwood Forest, fucking all. That's really where the most intimidating forest and terrain is, if you ask me. Sierra Nevada mountains and up into Washington State. There's places down there no one's ever set foot. Big fucking trees, a lot of mountains, lots of fucking rivers. If you fell into the wrong river and got swept in the, you get swept down in the rapids and fucking go over a waterfall and get killed. There's all kinds of things
I mean,
that
that's
could
the
get
thing. It only takes a second.
Yeah.
All that has
Yeah.
to happen is you just have to like slip on a rock.
Slip
and you're,
on a rock and
you're
you're
fucking
that's
dead.
it.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, in some places, it's 8 feet deep and the water's moving 35 miles an hour. You
Yeah,
just
there's no way.
Yeah, and it goes over a fucking waterfall that's 200 feet.
Yeah, there's just no way.
Yeah,
You can
and it may
get out
only
of
be
that.
a few feet of water at the bottom of the waterfall. There's no telling. Rocks and shit.
So yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So that's why, yes, there are an alarming number of disappearances and deaths in national parks, but in a way, that doesn't seem all that surprising to me because people are going there like out in the wilderness. They're going out hiking. Some of them are not that experienced and don't take enough stuff with them. Some of them just have accidents befall them as happens, like I said, because it's nature. So it's like, so I don't really think most of them are all that mysterious. But, it's some of them are weird. There are like weird details to some of them. I will admit that, and I'm like really interested in disappearances cases like that, especially if they have like really weird details. Like I said, I don't think anything's paranormal or anything like that, like any of the disappearances, but I'm always just kind of wondering like what led to that circumstance, you know what I mean? 'Cause if I can't figure it out.
All right, so a lot of people here, Military 100's here, Tammy's here, Phantom, Sabrina,
CB is here.
CB's here. Yeah, okay, so that's some of our regulars. So I guess we can go ahead and start it.
Yeah, I mean, we've been kind of talking about it.
Yeah, we introed it.
We introed it. But yeah, so if you don't know what Missing 411 is, it's basically like it was a series of books. It was put out by this guy named David Paulides. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm sorry if it's not right. He used to be a cop in San Jose, California. He got fired in 1966 for a misdemeanor. It turned out it was just some minor bullshit thing. It was because I was like, well, what was it? Because the thing I was reading said he got fired after a misdemeanor. I'm like, well, what was it? What was the misdemeanor? Falsely soliciting for a charity. I was like, oh, so not really that big of a deal. He's probably like, hey, I work for the Salvation Army, and then he just took the fucking money. You know what I mean? It was that kind of shit, I guess. So he got fired. And then after that, like, he was a big Bigfoot guy. Like, so he was always, like, talking about how Bigfoot was real and all this other kind of stuff. He was actually, and he would go out on Bigfoot hunts. He was actually a big fan of, remember that person, I think it was back in 2013, that said that they'd found Bigfoot DNA? And there was, like, a big thing, like, in the paranormal world about that. Yeah. And it's just like, and she wrote a paper, and no one would publish it, obviously, because it was pulled out of her butt, I guess. And so she started her own scientific journal, like, to publish it. And I was like, okay, that's one way of doing it, because she couldn't get anyone else to publish it. But yeah,
there's a lot of problems with Bigfoot.
Well, yeah,
man, I've heard some good stories from reputable sources, you know, park rangers and shit. But I guess even they can misidentify things, or
yeah, anybody can.
Some of the stories where they're not quite sure what it was just something very unusual, you know. If there were anything like that existed, it wouldn't be in the continental United States, maybe Washington State. Okay. It would be up in Canada. But I don't think it could hide, because you got all kinds of fucking satellites and drones that can pick up, you know, infrared signatures of people, you know, thermal imaging and stuff. Like, finding these little kids is a lot easier now. But with thermal imagery on these drones, you can find a lost kid. I just saw them do that shit on television the other day. You can find anything out there. So I don't think it could stay hidden. No, not. We would have seen it by now.
You would think.
Yeah, and then the Bigfoot industry is doing things like, well, we're gonna fucking have these spiritual interdimensional Bigfoots, where he's more like a damn spirit. And the reason why they do that is because that explains why there's a lack of footprints.
Why you can't find him. Yeah.
Why you can't find him, there's no footprints. And there's no evidence left behind. So it's spiritual. Boy, it's going to be hard to prove that, man. You might as well just say it's a poltergeist. I don't think there's a spirit.
I mean, that's why they do it. That's because you have plausible deniability then.
Yeah. I think it's the idea sells better to the modern audience.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said. You know, I know that people love mysterious shit. You know what I mean? They love mysterious shit. So, I mean, just look at any video of, like, mysterious anything, and it has, like, millions of views. You know what I mean?
The original Bigfoot stories are Native American stories, and it is a spirit. It's like a nature spirit. I don't think it's the way it's described in some of the stories. It's not described as a real creature. It's a spirit. Skookum, and all that kind of stuff. Skookum.
I don't remember.
Some of them, yeah. Skookum, yeah. There's a bunch of them. But it's just kind of like a spiritual wild man. Nature spirit type thing. So it's kind of going back to its roots. The story, you know? Like, well, it's not biological. It's not a crypto creature, you know? A cryptid. It's a spirit. I ain't gonna buy it.
Well, no, me neither.
No.
And I've said many times on the show, I'm not a big believer in general paranormal stuff, but if of all of the stuff that's out there, the most plausible to me, and I'm not saying I think Bigfoot exists, because I don't. I'm just saying that's the most plausible, because it could just be an undiscovered ape or an undiscovered humanoid. Okay, they did exist at some point in history, so that's more plausible to me than some of the other shit, like skinwalkers and all that.
Yeah.
But I still don't believe that there's Bigfoots out there.
If I were to drop you in any place in the United States, if you walked in a straight line longer than a fucking maybe about a day, you're gonna hit a road. You know, fucking in most places at least. Man, somebody would have hit one with a car by now. Just roads everywhere. So
I'm surprised that's never been on Weekly World News, has it?
Yes,
I hit Bigfoot with my car.
Yeah, you'd hit him by a car.
He's like tied on the top like a dead deer.
Yeah.
That had to have been in Weekly World News at some point. Like we did a show about Weekly World News a while back, but like I didn't come across
people
that.
will occasionally hit bear. They'll occasionally hit fucking mountain lion.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I mean, they got to cross the road sometime.
Yeah, you would think, you know, over the past fucking 100 years, somebody would hit one in the car.
Yeah.
Statistically, it should have happened by now.
Yeah, you would think.
Uh-huh.
Well, since you brought up wild men, I will say that one of the theories about some of these missing 411 cases is that maybe some of these people are being killed and possibly eaten by wild men, like feral people, like living in the woods, like that
like
are
hills
cannibals.
have eyes.
Yeah, like hills have eyes type of situation.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, that's not impossible. You know, I think it's pretty unlikely. But you know, the thing about it is some of the missing 411 cases, like I'll get into what his criteria are, even though like I think that a lot of the ones that are in the books don't meet all of that criteria. But some of them are obviously murders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you know, so the possibility has also been floated that there's like some unknown serial killers like hunting people out there, which, like I said, also plausible. I mean, obviously that could happen. But you know, so I think that's a lot more likely, obviously, than Sasquatches or skinwalkers like killing them.
I remember back in the 90s, there was a sighting. Somebody saw a guy. This guy was out in a desert area, you know, like Arizona around that time, around that place. And he saw a guy dressed in rags with a backpack on his back and an AR-15 and was fucking walking through the desert. And he called to him. He was up in the distance, and the dude turned around, saw him, and then fucking turned around to look at him, and then turned around and ran. And the guy lost him. He told the cops. And remember, I saw that on television.
Yeah.
I think that might have been Unsolved Mysteries. I'm not sure. It was something like that. Something like Unsolved Mysteries. And the cops were surmising that it might have been one of two dudes they were looking for about 8 years prior who had fucking robbed a bank and shot a couple of cops. I don't think they killed the cops, but they shot them. And they had AR-15s and stuff, and they found their vehicle out in the desert, but they never could find them. They were never found again. By that, they evidently were missing for like 6-7 years, 8 years, something like that. And the cops thought that maybe one of them was still alive out there living in the desert. That's so bizarre, huh?
Yeah.
Like a wild man, afraid to come back in because they knew who he was. They knew the names of
Right.
both of them, so he couldn't go back to civilization.
So yeah, he just decided to go feral, I guess.
Yeah.
Live off the grid.
Yeah, walking around.
Which, like I said, I'm sure
Like
that
somebody Mad
happens.
Max.
You know, I'm sure that happens. So it's not crazy to think that maybe one or two of these people that went missing on these missing 411 cases, that maybe one or two of them might have been a victim of
somebody like that.
Somebody like that. I mean, that's not crazy. I don't think it's that common, but
It's got to be. Yeah, I think most guys that are wanted by the law don't have what it takes to survive out there. Most of them. They'd rather go back in, get arrested, and go to jail, do their time. Even if it's life,
get free food.
Because it's easy, get food and shit. Yeah.
Get free food.
Yeah. A lot of them are scared of the dark, you know what I mean? They don't want to be out there in the fucking woods at night.
I mean, why would you want to be?
I did it.
Well, I know that, but it's just like,
But I was equipped for it.
if you didn't have to be.
I had all the equipment that you wanted. If you were just thrown out there like naked and afraid, it would fucking suck.
Yeah.
I could survive it, I think, depending on where I was and what time of year it was. If it gets below freezing, you're a fucking goner if you don't have any clothes. Just, you ain't gonna make it.
But yeah, so so this guy, like I said, he was fired from being a cop, and then started like a Bigfoot search company type thing. And then he wrote a couple books about Bigfoot, and then after a while, like right around 2012, he started getting really interested in all of these cases of people going missing in generally national parks, but also just on federal lands in general. And he was starting to suspect that there might be some kind of like government cover-ups, or maybe there was some kind of weird thing, like that a lot of these disappearances were linked and they didn't want people to know about it or something. So he started writing books about that. Like he started compiling all these cases and writing books about that. Like I said, as of this show, I believe there are 10 missing 411 books where he just compiles like all these different cases. And as far as I'm aware, like just from some of the ones that I read, they are very well researched, and he does seem like he's trying to get all the relevant information he can get. Like I said, he has said that he's tried to submit Freedom of Information Act requests, like on some of them, and have been denied, which is true, like that has happened, but I don't think that it's for the reasons that he thinks it is. And some of the stuff, like, he was sent. So, like I said, he's written about a lot of these cases, and he does seem to be trying to get all the details as specific as possible. I just think this kind of reminds me of, remember a long time ago when we did the show about the smiley face killer, or smiley face killers theory?
I guess so.
Like about all those people falling in, water or drowning or whatever, like dying. All these males like dying in different places, and they think it's like some sort of gang or some shit like that. And I thought, although I think that maybe a handful of those cases are linked and are maybe the same killer, I think that most of the cases are just coincidence or accidents, or were just separate murders and weren't linked to the other ones. And I kind of think this is the same kind of situation. I think maybe people are seeing patterns where there aren't any. Because, like I said, disappearances in national parks is not unusual. People get lost in national parks every single day. Most of them are found. Like, most of them they just wander off the trail and are like, oh shit, I'm lost. And then, they get found after not too long. Some people are never found. Sometimes they find their bones, like, years later. Shit like that. I'm just saying that it's wilderness, and there are just a myriad things that could go wrong in a very short amount of time. So I don't think it's that weird that so many people go missing in those situations. That's all I'm saying. And I don't think that there's necessarily any kind of cover-up or any kind of unusual circumstances surrounding them. Although I will admit that some of the disappearances are kind of weird. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, so he's written 10 books, several documentaries, 2 that I know of. There might be more than that. But he's also done like, Kickstarters for the documentaries and stuff. So they made like documentaries covering some of the cases. Now, I think the number of cases that he talks about, I mean, it's like 1,600, I think. He's counting disappearances and deaths also in national parks, but also just on federal lands in general. So that's like obviously a large, and it's over the whole United States. So that's like a vast area. You know what I mean? I mean, 1,600 people is a lot, and it's also not just recent. I mean, he's going back to like some of the cases are like from the 20s and the 30s and stuff like that. So it's going back a long time too. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's probably not as many people as it seems like. Like when you talk about it, it's just kind of like, holy shit, that's a lot of people. But yeah, that would be a lot of people if that happened in one area, like over 5 years. But over several decades in, several different areas of the United States, which is a vast region, it's not really that crazy. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. And like I said, there's just so much stuff that could go wrong. Even if you're really experienced, the weather could turn to shit. You could slip on something and break your leg and not be able to get out. Like, your equipment could malfunction. There's, like, a million things.
You get bitten by a snake.
You get bitten by a snake. You get attacked by an animal. You can get, like, all kind of shit could happen. You know what I mean? You could just, like, slip. Like I said, you could slip and fall off a fucking cliff or some crap like that, which happens all the time. Like, even if you're in a car, like, your car could break down, like, in some area that you can't get out of or some kind of shit like that. So, I'm just saying that it's not that weird. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's like, I think the argument that he's making is that the number of disappearances and deaths is unusual or excessive, but I would argue that I don't think that it is. So I'm not really sure if there's something to explain necessarily, although some of the individual cases, I think, you know, it would be good if we could explain like how certain things happen, but I don't think there's like a phenomena that needs to be explained, much like the smiley face killer theory, which I don't think is a thing. You know, I just think a lot of that is coincidence or accidents or things of that nature, and people are just kind of making it seem weirder than it is, perhaps. So there's that. Now, so he has like a kind of a set of loose criteria for what cases he considers a missing 411 case. Because like I said, there's a lot of disappearances in national parks and stuff like that he doesn't consider that because they're not weird. Like, you know, obviously if you find a body and it's like, obviously they were murdered, you know, duh, that's a murder. Or obviously if the person like fell in a ravine or something like that, duh, obviously they fell in a ravine. So that's not weird. So he's trying to like establish these kind of like characteristics of cases that he considers to be a missing 411 case. And these criteria are, the disappearances or deaths have no obvious explanation. Like I said, meaning they weren't murder, or they didn't commit suicide or whatever, or they didn't just slip and fall into a ravine or anything like that. Like there was something weird about it. They occurred in one of 52 clusters in national parks or federal lands, like across the United States, like just various, you know, just like Yellowstone, like various places like that. In several of the cases, there were elevation changes involved. For example, the person was found much higher, like if they were found dead or whatever, they were like much higher than where they had disappeared from. He also said the disappearances tended to be near bodies of water, swampland, berry shrubs, underground cave systems, and or groups of granite boulders. He said if the people are found alive, they generally have memory loss or come up with like some weird ass stories. The victims have missing clothing that are never found. Victims are found to have traveled very unlikely distances since the time they vanished. Like they're found like way farther away than you would expect, like, you know, for them to have traveled that far. Another weird thing in a lot of cases was that they bring in search dogs, and the search dogs can't seem to follow their scent trail or become confused, like they can't find them, you know. And this, I kind of feel like he's probably reaching, but a significant number of them, so he says, had so-called Germanic names or origins. I think this might just be because the vast majority of the disappearances were like young to middle-aged white men, which tends to be...
That's who's out there.
That's who's out there. Like I said, I think that's just a statistical... Yeah. Like, yeah, that's the dudes that are going to most likely be out there hiking and doing that kind of stuff.
Inner city black dudes don't camp.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. So it's not... Yeah. So it's like, so that's obviously... So that's not that weird. It's like, oh, white dudes from like 22 to 60 or whatever it is. It's like, that's most...
upper middle class kids.
Yeah, that's most people that go hiking or go out in the wilderness like that.
Cost money to buy that equipment and then take time off from work and drive out there and fucking, you know, going on an expedition takes a fucking couple $100 a piece per person, you know.
More than that, I would think.
Oh, well, I'm not talking about just supplying yourself, but just the fuel and the food and shit like that.
Yeah.
That's if you're already equipped, then fucking, no, a lot more. A lot more. Most people have about $1,000, $1,500 worth of gear.
Yeah, so that's what he's saying. So you do have to be like a little bit privileged to even do that shit in the first place, because it's not cheap, you know what I mean? Just to have all the equipment.
And to go out there and fucking live rough.
Right.
Doesn't make any damn sense to a working person, you know what I mean, who fucking working hard. They're like, I ain't going out there.
Yeah, it's like, if I'm going on vacation, if I'm going to go on vacation, I'm just going to go lay by a pool and have people bring me cocktails.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And give me, like... fucking massages and shit. I'm not gonna go out and sleep with the bugs on the ground. Fuck that. Why would I want to do that? That sounds like...
I did it for a living for fucking 4 years, man. I had enough.
I mean, I used to go camping with my family.
Sometimes I miss it, but, you know.
I used to go camping with my family when I was a kid, and it was fun, but it's like you'd only go for like, 2 or 3 days or something like that.
Yeah.
And the places where we went weren't like way out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there was campsites and there was like, bathrooms and shit like that. So, and there was just springs you could go swim in, and you could go fishing and canoeing and shit like that.
SideQuest is with us in the comments. She's ex-Army. She knows what I'm talking about. Really, the thing that got me was just being cold and wet.
Yeah.
That's as long as I was dry and not freezing to death, I was happy. But you're always wet. That's the problem.
Yeah,
You're just always
it
wet.
sounds like not that big a deal, but after a while, little shit like that just like starts to get to you. Like it starts to wear on your mental health. You know? It's just kind of the principle behind shit like Chinese water torture and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like something that doesn't sound like that big of a deal if it just goes on for a couple of minutes. But if it goes on for hours, I think one of the things that like on Naked and Afraid, for example, that maybe isn't the first thing that you would think of, because you would think of like big shit, like like freezing cold weather or really hot weather or something like that. But I don't think you realize like how much you're just out, you're not covered, and you're gonna be like eaten by bugs, like little bugs, and
Gnats
it's just like gnats and stuff. And it's like it sounds like not a big deal, like if you just go out in your yard and you're like, oh shit, like gnats and stuff like that. But if you're just out there and you don't have anything covering you up, and it's just relentless, I mean that is gonna drive you fucking crazy after a while. And if you get enough bites, they'll get infected if you don't put shit on them, and you could die. Like you'll get blood poisoning. So it's like it's just little shit can add up. You know what I mean?
We were fucking sleeping on the ground one time in Korea, man. Fucking the mosquitoes are eating us up. We're like, God damn these mosquitoes. We all got in our fucking we had a hooch already over us, held up there with bungee cords and shit between the trees. We put on our rain gear and our gloves and shit, and fucking I forgot what I used as I put something. I just fucking put a net. I had a net. I put that over my fucking head, but I had my fucking rain hood on. You know what I mean? So and it was fucking boiling hot, and we're in fucking plastic or rubberized fucking rain gear because the mosquitoes couldn't bite through it. But all fucking night you were standing there just fucking. Just as still as you could be, because you're afraid of making a wrinkle in something and having them climb in, because they climb in there and get you. You could hear it all night, and it up around your face and shit on the other side.
Yeah,
of
like
the
I
net.
said, that was fucking bonkers.
All fucking
Wouldn't
night.
take that long either.
Just when man, I think is one of them biting me? I guess not. You know what I mean? Fucking, they were trying to get in though. We'd be talking to each other. There's a lot of fucking mosquitoes. Like, hell yeah. Yeah. If you're out there by yourself, it'd drive you fucking crazy.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Like I said, whenever
it's easier to suffer in a pack than it is to suffer
yeah,
alone.
because at least you have people to like commiserate with.
Yeah. And you can say, he's making it, I can make it. You're
But the
kind of
thing
like
about
drawing
it is
strength
just
over
kind of
you.
like, look, it's the 21st century. It's like, why do that to yourself if you don't have to? Like, I kind of look askance at people that like enjoy that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind camping, like I said, but because Burley Sullivan says, what about glamping? Well, see, that's all right. Because it's like, it's kind of like camping, but without all of the pain in the ass shit. You know what I mean? Like, you still have some stuff.
Yeah, there's this Korean girl I watch. She fucking camps.
Oh, yeah, she's cool. I like her.
And she fucking does... It's Korean camping half the time.
Yeah, it's kind of glamping.
You pull your car up, and there's other cars all around you, and then there's like a fucking raised fucking wooden pavilion that you can set your tent up on, and she has
so it's like off the ground, so you're not like...
Yeah, it's off the ground. It's laying on the ground, and then the cats live there at the campsite, and she's got hanging out with the cats and feeding them and cooking in there in her sleeping bag and shit. She's all decked out. And I was like, man, that's just like a hotel.
Yeah.
And she could go out there in her little fucking Kia, little car.
See, I don't mind that kind of camping.
Yeah. She was doing some tougher stuff though too every now and then. But she does both. She'll sleep out on the rocks on the end of the fucking shoreline.
Oh yeah, that's right. I saw that. You showed me that one.
Stuff like that, yeah. But no, she mostly just fucking has it easy. Eats real good, buys food. She's only out for like a night. She spent one night maybe.
Yeah, she's got a whole channel. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know why you'd want to make yourself suffer.
Yeah.
Just, it doesn't sound fun to me. like I said, I work hard enough as it is. I'm broke enough as it is.
Yeah.
If I actually had the money to go on vacation,
Make it hard on yourself.
I don't want to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would I want to like sleep with bugs and
Yeah.
in the weather and all that other kind of stuff?
Sometimes I miss
No
certain
thanks.
elements of it, but then I also, when it's raining outside, I'm fucking glad. Man, I'm glad I'm inside.
Yeah.
Because I fucking got sick of being out in that all the time.
Yeah. Like I said, it gets out. It gets
Yeah.
to you after a while.
You can't keep that rain out forever. And I had good shit too. Gore-Tex tops and bottoms. You know, it was the best stuff you could get from the 90s. That's what we wore.
Yeah.
And you still got wet.
SideQuest here said, "Yeah, fuck that shit. I don't do that shit for free anymore."
Yeah.
So I've hiked one too many mountains on an officer's whim to do it for fun now. I don't care if there's marshmallows on the top or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to. I might do it if it was like, if you gave me like
Glamorous
a
and
million.
easy.
No, I might do it if you gave me
Yeah.
$1 million.
Yeah. We go out there and there's a fucking nice fucking little mini mansion waiting for us with glass walls. We have a fucking waterbed and jacuzzi out there.
Yeah, see, that sounds fun.
The deer are watching us and we're like fucking and shit. Yeah. I mean, that's the, you know, the mountain lion goes down and give me the thumbs up. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, just go into like a cabin, but a cabin that had electricity and running
Yeah, that's
water.
fucking badass. Yeah.
Then you know
It's
you could-
all wood grain and fucking glass
Yeah.
walls and
that,
shit.
see,
Modern.
that would be fun.
That'd be really neat. Yeah.
Like you could get up out of your quilt and make some
Yeah.
pancakes in the morning and
Yeah.
shit like that. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
You could go out fishing if you wanted to.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck it, it's too hot out
Right.
here, and then go back into the air conditioning.
The people that own those kind of things though don't know anything about camping though. They don't really camp.
No.
They're they
Well,
they consider
like I
that
said.
camping, but that's just fucking decked out. They're
Yeah.
bringing all their groceries and shit.
Yeah. Phantom says people that trek into the woods by themselves are just looking to be a missing person statistic. Definitely not a good idea.
It depends
Yeah.
on who you are. I could do it. A lot of other people can do it. They
I
got
mean-
people that are real good at it.
Yeah, but I kind of feel like even if you're really good at it, like there could be circumstances that are beyond your control.
You don't
know
want
what
to be
I mean?
out there alone. It's just like diving. You don't want to dive
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah.
Because if you get hurt and you can't walk out of there, somebody's got to say, "Okay, man, put you up in a place, and I'll come back and get you."
Yeah,
you can get the grid
'cause that
zone
could happen
bridge
to
right
anybody.
here,
I don't
'cause
care
I'm
how
gonna go get you some
experienced
help.
you are.
Yeah, shit like that.
That's what I mean. Anybody could like slip
Right.
on a rock and break
Right.
their ankle, and then you're fucked
Yeah,
if nobody's with you.
yeah.
And that doesn't have anything to do with how fit you are, or how
Oh.
much equipment you have, or anything like that. That
No.
could happen to anybody.
Yeah. You could get a cut, and then 3 days later get an infection so bad that you can't walk out of there.
Yeah.
Get a cut on your foot or something, and you go, "Well, I'll just wait another day. It'll get better." No, it gets worse every day. You're, "Oh, fuck, now you're going to die."
Now you got gangrene.
Yeah, you're going to die because you can't walk out of there.
Yep. Like I said, no thanks.
Yeah.
CB said one of my friends got drunk and woke up when a deer started licking his ass in the morning.
Yeah.
A deer was trying to wake him up. What are you doing out here? Did you fall asleep out in the yard? That's pretty funny.
We got deer live around here. They have no fucking sense of self-preservation. They'll just walk around. That was down at fucking Sanford, which is even closer to fucking Orlando.
Yeah, I used to see deer all the time.
We got 2 foxes that run around playing.
Yeah, in
Haven't
this
seen them in a while.
neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah.
We saw them a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, the people at the
Just
housing
running around.
fucking community on Facebook fucking take cell phone videos of them and then post it. The foxes are back.
Yeah.
They make funny noises. Beep, beep, beep. Beeping. They make beeping noises instead of barking noises.
They're super cute. We see them sometimes when we come back from the club. It's the middle of the
Yeah.
night and they're running around in the neighborhood. Just
Yeah, I
running around
stop
in
and roll
people's
the window
yards.
and I say, "Hey guys, how you doing? Come on in the car." And they're like, "Whoa, run."
Yeah. Tammy said, yeah, remember that guy who had to cut his own arm off because he got stuck? Yeah,
Yeah.
they made a movie about that dude.
Yeah.
Didn't they make a movie about that guy?
Yeah, he broke it. It was stuck down in between 2 rocks, wasn't it?
Yeah, or like
Couldn't
a
get
rock fell on it or
couldn't
something.
Couldn't get it out.
I can't imagine having... I mean, I get it. You get, like, so desperate that you're like, look, I'm going to die if I don't fucking get out of here.
There was one where a guy was riding on a 4-wheeler that was laden down with a bunch of shit and it fell on him.
Oh,
And he crushed
yeah, we
underneath-
saw that.
He was underneath that thing for 4 or 5 days, I think, and almost died.
Yeah, that was on...
And he was dying.
It was.
when
I
they
think
found
that was on that show I Shouldn't Be Alive or
Yeah.
some shit like that.
him.
Like
He was
I
out there
watching
for a
that.
long time.
It was a long time. And it's like, and there was wolves and shit, or coyotes or
Yeah,
something
trying to
too,
come and
right?
eat him and
They
shit.
were gonna
He's-
try and come and eat him,
Yeah.
and he couldn't really move. Like he
Yeah.
was, but he lived. I mean, they
Lost
found him.
both of his legs or one of his legs. I don't remember. He lost one leg, I think.
At least one leg.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. That might have been both of them. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was one of those shows, like one of those Discovery or TLC shows. I think it was I Shouldn't Be Alive, but it might be another one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was fucked up. That was a fucked up story. And that was just like a total freak accident. Like, he was on that four-wheeler all the time. It was his job, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it had boxes and all kinds of shit in there. It was weighted down.
Yeah, there was a bunch of stuff on it. So I don't remember how they said how much it weighed. It was a lot.
Yeah, and he hit a fucking, like a pothole type thing, and it went up and it turned over, and he was
Fell right on him,
He fell off of it, and it fell on him, and he was like, okay, whoa. He thought he'd be all right, but then he realized he couldn't lift it. Couldn't get it off of him. No matter what he could do. You'd think he tried to dig a hole, but his leg was so fucking busted up.
Yeah.
So I think it crushed his leg.
And he couldn't really get much like traction because most of him was underneath, so only his like torso and arms were sticking out, so he couldn't really like turn around.
Yeah, and he didn't get. I don't think it broke his leg. It's just that it mashed it so bad that the circulation got cut off, and it slowly just kind of went gangrene, I think.
Yeah, I don't even know if it broke it. It just kind of like smushed it down into the ground,
and the leg died.
Yeah. It was a fucked up
He was there for
story.
like 4 days.
But I'm sure he's probably like super glad to be alive. He's like,
Yeah.
fuck the leg, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, you'd get used to it. It would suck, but you'd get used to it. Yeah, the movie was 127 hours. That's right, about that guy. I don't think I saw the movie, but I remember like reading about that.
What, the guy trapped underneath the thing?
About the Rock that had to cut his arm off.
The Rock, okay.
Yeah. Like I was gonna say, I knew they made a movie about it. And then Phantom says, "R.I.P. Julian Sands." Yeah, Julian Sands also died out hiking. They found him like a long time later. Like, he was missing for a while.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. Then they found his.
Well, he was hiking, huh?
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you some ice.
Yeah. Okay. Because man, my ice melted. It's not that hot in here. I don't know why. But yeah, so one of the things, like I said, David Paulides, he's on, because somebody was talking about the smiley face killer theory, like being on Coast to Coast all the time. David Paulides was also on Coast to Coast a lot, and actually there's on YouTube, there's several compilations of his interviews on there. Like, he's all over the place. He has his own channel, and there's like a bunch of other compilations like of his cases and stuff, so he's kind of like a big deal. And he was on Coast to Coast a lot too. And okay, so the stuff that he said about submitting, thank you, these FOIA requests about some of these cases, like, some of the stuff that he says about it is true, that they were denied. But I was reading an article that said that it might not be as shady as it seems, because the way that the national park, shit is set up, they're like, one, it's kind of convoluted. Like, you're never really entirely sure. A lot of the national parks, they have like law enforcement, but they don't have that many of them, and because they're like really underfunded and they're like understaffed. And so a lot of times, depending on where the national park is, they will have deals with like local law enforcement to like come in and investigate certain things, like under whatever jurisdiction. So the person that wrote the article is arguing that it's like, maybe when he's submitting these, requests to the National Park Service, it's entirely possible that they don't have records of this disappearance or something. Like, it's with some other agency that investigated it and not the National Park Service. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, the jurisdiction is like super convoluted and they're all different. So he's like, it might not be that there's just some kind of government cover-up or anything like that. It just might be that he's submitting shit to the wrong place, or it's like they genuinely don't have the records of that crime because someone else investigated, or that disappearance. So he's like, so it could be that. Like, yeah, it seems kind of sinister on its surface, but when you look into how the shit operates, it's like, it's probably just, it's this huge clusterfuck of paperwork and bureaucracy, and it's just kind of like, you're not entirely sure who's investigating this death or this disappearance or whatever, because it's just like all different roles, you know what I mean? So it could be that. So here's the thing, like I said, so I picked out a few cases that I thought were interesting or had like weird details or something like that. And as far as I know, all of these have been covered under the Missing 411, like in one of the various books or documentaries or whatever. So hopefully you guys will find these interesting as well. Tammy says there's a YouTube channel called what is it called? Foresty Forest? Is it called
Foresty Forest?
Is it called Foresty Forest? I hope it is. That's awesome. Where the guy lives in his van and hikes the Canadian Rockies. He's almost always alone while hiking. See, I don't know, man. I think that's a really, really dumb thing to do. I mean, if you're a grown-ass adult, you can do whatever you want. You know, I'm not going to stop you, but I just think it's a dumb thing to do. And even, like Tom, if you came to me and told me, hey, I'm going to go hiking at this place, or I'm going to go explore the Everglades or something like that, and you're going to go by yourself, even though I know that you're perfectly competent and you can do all that kind of stuff, I still wouldn't want you to go by yourself. Because, like I said, lots of bad shit could happen that doesn't have anything to do with how good at shit you are or how badass you are or anything like that. Like, circumstances can intervene. So I would still worry about it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying.
They got my payment.
Okay,
I just
well, that's
checked
good.
that.
See, I told you. Like, you freak out about it, but it happens every single time.
It's got to be verified though, which means I think the crypto payment went up and down by a few fucking dollars, and they want to make sure they'd take it anyway. You know what I mean? Because you try to pay them in crypto, but fucking the value of the crypto's going up and down on the market.
Yeah.
An hour later, you might be $1 difference. You know.
Well, hey, they're
think that's
the
what it
ones
is.
taking that shit, so it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So
I've never
that's
had
their
them not
problem.
accept what I sent them.
That's their problem.
You know, never. If it's off a couple dollars, they don't seem to care.
Yeah, well, like I said, that's probably built into their business model.
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
imagine.
yeah.
It's just that I told you before. It's like that's the same thing that happened last time, and it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and you freaked out for hours and
Yeah.
hours, and then it was fine.
Buying my drugs.
He's buying his drugs. Yeah, he's trying to be all sneaky about
Yeah,
it. So
no.
it's like to
To the whole internet.
to the whole internet.
Yeah.
Or the tiny portion of the
Yeah.
internet that's watching this right now. Yeah, Foresty Forest is the channel name. That's awesome. He does have a little Jack Russell with him. Aw. Still though,
It's a bad idea to go out there by yourself.
it is a bad idea. Like I
Unless he
said.
has some really good telecommunications. If he's got a
Even
fucking-
then, it could malfunction.
It could.
Like, I
be.
wouldn't trust it.
I'd have a backup. You know. And there's some shit that you could do if you have a good radio, a good GPS slugger, give you your GPS coordinates. Which I got one of those. And then you'd have to if you had good cell phone coverage, if you needed help, you could give them your coordinates. They come get you. All right, but you better have fucking battery backup, solar charger and shit.
Yeah, I mean,
All
you gotta
kinds of
take
stuff.
all kind of shit
Yeah.
with you. And even then, like I said, you could lose it. It could break. It
Yeah.
could get wet. You know, there's a million things that could
I
happen.
got a solar charger that's that big. You can just leave it out and it'll just store up a whole battery. I got 2 of them, and that battery in there will charge a cell phone probably about 7 or 8 times over. And you know, so there's a lot of power in it. You could charge a radio battery with it. The thing is, though, is if you're just dependent on sunlight, it might take 2 days for that thing to come to full charge.
Right.
So if you're charging all this shit, man, it might take 3 or 4 days if you're not staying on top of it. Like if all your batteries were dead.
You better
It might
have a
take-
lot of granola
You
bars.
better have a lot.
'cause
You might
sugar-
take 2 or 3 days to fucking get everything charged.
And a lot of water bottles. You know.
You have to wait for the sun to come back out.
Yeah.
I don't know. It probably wouldn't be that bad.
Like I said, I'm not going into the wilderness anytime
Yeah.
soon, so I'm not worried about it. I mean, of course, there's always a possibility you could end up in the wilderness somehow, like
Yeah.
for various reasons. But I'm not planning on going there willingly. I'm just saying, like, I'm not. I like walking and hiking and stuff like that, but I'm not going anywhere where I could get lost in the woods or get eaten by a bear. For Christ's sake, why would I want to do
Not
that?
by yourself.
No, hell no, I wouldn't. Because, like I said, that's a really dumb thing to do. Like I said, I know why people do it. Because it's just like, oh, they want to go find themselves, or they think they're so badass that nothing bad could happen to them. But that's a really, that's a really dumb attitude to have. Bad
Saying
shit
you
can
better
happen
take
to
a gun with a
anybody.
knife. What's funny is that some of these national forests won't allow you to take a gun in them. I don't know if it's still like that, but it used to be.
I don't know.
It used to be you couldn't take a gun inside redwood forest or sequoia.
I'm not really sure. I don't know if they all have different rules, or I'm not entirely sure. Depending on
Yeah.
what state they're in or what, you know what I mean. I don't really
We're in
know.
Florida, man. You can just fucking walk around fucking town with a gun. We got constitutional carry. We don't have open carry though, so you can't have a pistol on a holster outside or walk around with a rifle. Really, in the city limits, they wouldn't like that. I don't think they'd charge you, but they'd fucking arrest you and probably fucking take you back to your car and say, get out of here, that shit. What are you fucking doing? I don't think they'd send you to, I don't think they'd charge you, but they'd stop you probably.
Yeah, CB said, I believe the guy from Warlock, that'd be Julian Sands, had a stroke when he went for a walk or hiking, but he didn't tell anyone where he was going. That's why it took months to find him.
Right.
That's another thing is, and I kind of feel like that happens with a lot of these like adventure dudes and shit like that. It's like they don't tell people exactly where they're going. And the thing about it is, even if they do, if they get lost or, you know, if they die and like an animal carries them off somewhere else, there's still like very little chance of.
Did he die on the spot, or did he lay there and die over a period of a few days?
I'm not really sure, actually. And see, that's another thing too that could happen to you no matter how prepared you are. Is you could have a heart attack or a stroke or something like that, and then, like I said, that'd just be like breaking your ankle. You'd be kind of fucking fucked if nobody was with you. So don't do that, y'all. It's not wise. So this first case I want to talk about, I first heard about this on an old Unsolved Mysteries. And I thought this was like kind of creepy. It's kind of a creepy case. And then I found out recently that they also discussed it in terms of like the missing 411 phenomenon. So this is the case of Ken Reinhard and Tom Young. Now this happened back in the 80s, 1988, in Silver Plume, which is a tiny, tiny little town kind of near Denver in Colorado. Now Keith Reinhard was this guy. He was a journalist, and he was 50 years old in 1988. Now he lived outside of Chicago, and he actually worked as a sports writer for the Chicago Daily Herald, and he'd done that for a very long time. And I guess he was getting to a point where he was, having the whole midlife crisis situation. He'd had this job for a long time. He had a wife and a daughter, and he, by all accounts, like, he loved them very much. It wasn't like anything like that. But he was just kind of like I guess he felt like he was in a rut, and he kind of wanted to do something different. So he had this friend named Ted, and Ted told him, I guess Ted had either been to Silver Plume, Colorado, or lived there. I'm not entirely clear on that. But he's like, yeah, it's this really cool, like, isolated little town, and, like, there's all this hiking, there's mountains, all this other kind of shit. So Keith really liked this idea of kind of getting away from it all and going out into nature and all this other kind of stuff. So he decides that he's going to take a 3-month leave of absence from the newspaper that he worked at, and he's going to move to Silver Plume for 3 months, and he's going to write a book, like write a novel. Now, so he tells his wife about it. She's not super jazzed about it, obviously. It's like, hey, honey, I'm going to go away for 3 months and go find myself. And she's just like, okay, like, if that's what you want to do. So he's like, yeah. And he's like, maybe if I like it enough, you can, like, come out and join me, like, later on. She's like, okay, whatever. So he goes out to Silver Plume. And I guess, I'm assuming this is, like, to make money while he was there. I'm not entirely clear about this. But he actually rented, like, a little antique store, like, on the little main street of the town. I mean, this is a tiny-ass town, okay? It was, like, little... It was initially, I think they were, like, looking for gold there, but then they found, like, a bunch of silver ore instead, like, hence why it's called Silver Plume. So there's, like, silver mines around there and shit. So he rents this little antique store, and then he rents, like, this little apartment, like, behind a church or something. And he's gonna go and work on a book for 3 months. And I'm presuming, like, run this little antique business, like, to make some money on the side or whatever. But when he got there, he found that he couldn't really, like, he was having really bad writer's block, right? And he couldn't, like, think of anything. So he starts going for hikes in the Rocky Mountains. And right around this time, when all of this was going on, he finds out that the store that he was renting, the guy that previously owned it, whose name was Tom Young, had mysteriously disappeared from Silver Plume. I believe it was only a year previously. So Tom Young, he was a Special Forces guy and had retired, and then he became like a high school art teacher. And he lived in Silver Plume and ran a bookshop called, I think it was called the Charing Cross Station, in the storefront where Keith was running his little antique business now. And the guy was, everybody in town thought he was a little bit of a weirdo, like he was a little eccentric and stuff. Like he was like kind of a recluse a little bit, and he kind of kept to himself. And he had a dog that he loved named Gus, who was a black lab. And everyone just kind of left him to his own devices, though. The interesting thing was that Tom and his dog were last seen alive on September 7th, 1987. So, like I said, a year before Keith came to Colorado. And they were walking off, presumably on a hike, into the Rocky Mountains. Now, Tom had reportedly told some friends of his that he was actually planning on going to Europe. Like, he had planned this big, long vacation, like, over there. But when they asked his family members about it later, they said, yeah, he didn't tell us anything about that, so I don't know what the fuck the deal with that is. And so, after he went missing, he was reported missing, because he never came back, you know what I mean? And the cops, one of the first things they did was they said, well, whenever he's left town before, he's always taken his dog Gus and like put him at this one particular boarding kennel, and they went to that kennel and the dog wasn't there, so they thought that was really weird. And also there were no plane tickets or anything like that saying that he'd actually gone to Europe. Okay.
What's up, Sticks?
Hey, what's up? How's the eggnog? Yeah, so this whole story about Tom Young's disappearance, which, like I said, it was the same store that Keith was renting, and it happened only a year prior. And so Keith got really interested in this. And so he started, like, asking some of the other townspeople about it, and he's like, man, this would make a great book. So now he has, like, inspiration for the novel he wants to write, right? So he throws away, like, the shit that he'd written before, and he said, I'm going to write, like, a fictionalized version of this story, you know what I mean? And he kind of, like, the main character was going to be like a combination of him and the dude that disappeared like a year previously, right? Now, not too long after Keith got to Silver Plume, on July 31st, 1988, a couple of hunters found a skeleton lying near a tree, like out in the wilderness, about an hour away from Silver Plume, like by foot, on foot. The skeleton had a bullet hole in the skull. These remains were later identified as those of Tom Young, the guy that had disappeared a year previously. They also found, I'm sorry to say, the dog, Gus, who had also been shot, also found dead there. And they found a Smith & Wesson Model 36 and a backpack found near the body. Now, because Tom Young had bought this particular gun.
What was it again? A Smith & Wesson what?
Model 36.
36, okay. Smith & Wesson 36. I forgot what that was. I don't think that's a revolver. I think that's an automatic. Let me go look. Go ahead.
So, because they knew that Tom Young had purchased this particular firearm only 4 days before he disappeared, they assumed that this was a suicide, like he had shot the dog and then shot himself. But people what?
It's a 6-shot 38 special, Chief Special. Small revolver. Yeah. Well, small by American standards. Okay. All right. Just want to know what it was. Very common. Very common. Good pistol, but revolver.
Senior Stick says, how long does it take for a human body to become just a skeleton and not a mummy?
Depends on the temperature.
It depends on the environmental factors.
Yeah.
Like, it's very rare for a body to become mummified. It usually has to be, like, super, super dry.
Yeah.
Or, they also have, like, a bog will mummify you in certain situations also.
In the Florida fucking summer, probably 3 or 4 days.
I imagine you'd probably be decomposed.
Well,
if you've ever seen, there's a documentary, and it's a book called, I think it's just called The Body Farm.
Yeah.
And it's a place, I think it's in Tennessee, I want to say, where they research body decomposition, like for, criminal purposes, like forensic purposes. And they have, you can, if you're into it, you can actually donate your body to them, like after you die.
They'll just throw you out
and
there
they'll just throw you in a field.
that the
Well,
bugs
and
get you.
under different circumstances,
Yeah,
or
some are in
they'll
trunks.
throw you in the water, or they'll
Yeah.
put you in a trunk, or
They put you in the front of a car.
in the front of a car, in the back of
Yeah.
a car, like all different situations, because
Yeah.
they're interested to see
what the
what
rate
will
is.
happen. Like I said, for murder investigations. And
Yeah,
things
they want to
like
know
that.
how old a body is.
It's fascinating. I mean, it's
Yeah.
gross as shit, but I read the book like about it, and it's actually really, really interesting.
In the Florida summer heat, if the animals didn't get you, probably in 4 or 5 days, you'd be a black, tarish goo
Yeah.
in a skeleton. You rot quick, and it releases a lot of fucking putrid water and
Yeah.
sludge.
In this environment, you rot pretty quickly
Rot quick. Yeah.
because it's very, very hot and,
And
very,
the
very
bugs will
humid.
start breaking you down fast.
And there's lots of bugs and
Yeah.
lots of animals.
Yeah.
So after a week, I don't imagine there would be much left of you.
No.
You know what I mean? In this area.
I've thrown dead turkeys. A turkey that died in a fucking chicken coop, threw his ass out in the back of a fucking Dr. Matt's fucking property. I said I'll come back once I fucking put the horses out. I'll bury this fucking turkey. So I came back an hour later, the turkey was gone. That's how long it took for the animals to get it. Never did find the turkey. And that turkey was dead.
The animals are probably super excited. They're like, woohoo, free turkey.
Nah, yeah. Animal came and got it and took it. And I didn't see any, prints or anything. And that turkey was big. Big. Big fucking turkey. Died of old age. So, they'll take a man or a human. Yeah.
Yeah.
No problem.
You're just meat.
Yeah.
Meat's meat. They don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It may have been raccoons.
It sounds fucked up, but
Yeah.
like I said, they don't know any different. They're just
Yeah.
like, woo, free meat.
It may have been raccoons. It may have been a bear. But I looked around. Where'd that who took it? You know what I mean? And it was just gone. So
Could have been
whatever
any.
it was,
It could have been any number of
yeah,
things.
yeah. The most common thing is that you would come back and you'd see 6 or 7 buzzards fucking trying to pull it apart.
Yeah.
The buzzards are they come quick here. They can smell something dead from miles away.
Yeah.
And it's fresh dead. They
Yeah,
can smell
you
us.
see them. You see them by the side of the road like all the time.
They can smell something's been dead only for an hour. And fucking they smell it miles away and come. They'll show up for it.
Yeah, they have really good. And anything that's like a scavenger like that has really good sense of smell. But yeah. All right. So yeah. So the authorities put it down as a suicide. Like I said, it looked as though Tom Young had just gone up into the Rocky Mountains, shot his dog, and then shot himself. However, reportedly, according to some reports, there was a tarp pulled over the body, which seemed a little suspicious, like someone else was there. And most of the townspeople tended to think that he had maybe been murdered. You know what I mean? Because they're like, look, he wouldn't shoot his dog. Like, they don't care, like, how much he wanted to kill himself, maybe. But it's just like, I just don't think that. So a lot of them thought that he was murdered, but the official cause of death was suicide. So, not too long, so they had a memorial service for Tom Young, and Keith went to it. Now, it does not seem at this stage, because this will be important later, that Keith was thinking about doing the same thing as Tom Young, because he reportedly like called his editor or whatever, like back in Chicago, asking him about like a promotion or something like that. So it seemed like he was looking to his future, like he was thinking about going back home, like all this other kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Now, a few days after that, though, like a few days after Tom Young's body was found, like skeletal remains, August 7th, 1988, Keith closed up his antique shop and told his friends that he was going hiking on Pendleton Mountain, which is a 12,500 foot peak. Now, they thought this was a little bit weird because Keith was like really scared of heights and didn't usually go up in the mountains. He just kind of went hiking like in the kind of lowlands or whatever. But he said he was going there, so they were like, okay, fine. Now, the night before he left, he was at a party, and the people that he was talking to said that one of the things that he said was that he didn't think that Tom Young's death was a suicide. So they thought that was kind of significant in light of later events. So the following day, they saw Keith leaving town sometime between 4 and 5 p.m. Now, the weird thing about this was that he had said he was going up to Pendleton Mountain, but the hike was like 6 hours long, and it was like super rugged terrain. So, like, why the fuck would you leave, like, a few hours before it was getting dark if you were going that far? You know what I mean? And it's just like, it just seemed like a dumb thing to do. And also, when he left, he didn't have any gear with him. Like, he didn't have hiking boots. He only had tennis shoes on. He didn't have a coat or nothing. He just had, like, a flannel shirt and jeans and tennis shoes. And he didn't take any equipment with him. So, no one knew exactly what the fuck he was doing. You know what I mean? He just, like, fucking wandered off. And he told his friend Ted that it's like, oh, I'll be back, like, about 10 o'clock tonight. And Ted thought he was kidding. Like, he's like, you really think you're going to make it to the top of this 12,000-foot mountain, like, in a couple of hours and then just come with just sneakers on? What the fuck? Like, he thought he was joking, you know what I mean? But I guess he wasn't joking, because he took off toward the mountain and disappeared off the face of the earth. He has never been seen since. So, he actually made a joke to his friend Ted the night before he went. He's like, hey, if I'm not back by whatever time tomorrow, like, you might want to call rescue services, yuck yuck, you know. It was like that. But he really didn't come back, like, the next day. And so his friend Ted reported him missing. So they did this big huge search and rescue mission. They had, like, all the dogs, they had helicopters. Like, at the time, I believe it's been surpassed since then. This was the 80s. But this was the largest search and rescue mission in Colorado history. And yet, they could not find hide nor hair of him. They found nothing. There was, like, no sign of him. And they said, well, the thing about it was that a lot of times, they're like, when a hiker goes missing, it's like, you know, they have a lot of stuff with them. So, like, a lot of times, like, you'll find clues. Like, hey, here's their boot, or here's a ski, or whatever. But it's like he didn't have a lot of shit with him, so it's like there was nothing. They never found any of his clothes. They never found anything. You know what I mean? He didn't have a backpack or nothing. So it's like, so they looked and looked, and they couldn't find any trace of him at all. Now, they looked for him until August 12th, and then one of the searcher planes, which is like a little Cessna, there was 2 people in it, and it crashed into the mountain, and it actually ended up killing the pilot and horribly injuring the other dude that was, like, the spotter. And so after that, they're like, okay, well, this is already costing some lives, and we need to, like, really wrap this up. Like, we're not finding this dude. Yeah, and to this day, they have never found this motherfucker. And the only thing they thought, it's like they looked at the book that he was writing, because remember I said he was writing a book, a fictional book based on the Tom Young disappearance?
Yeah.
And they found him later. They found it in his typewriter. And it said, like, the main character that was based on Tom Young and himself was named Guy Gypsum. And the passage said, Guy Gypsum changed into some hiking boots and donned a heavy flannel shirt. He understood it all now, and his motivation. Guy closed the door and then walked off towards the lush, shadowless Colorado forests above. And that was all they knew of where he fucking went to. And like I said, to this day, and this was back in 1988, they have never found a single fucking trace of him, ever. So, everybody's wondering, what the fuck happened? Like, did he go up and commit suicide, as Tom Young had presumably done, even though a lot of people thought that that was murder? You know, maybe he decided he was going to follow in the dude's footsteps. I don't know. Like, it didn't seem like it, because he did call, like, about his old job, like he was trying to, like, he was going to think about going back home. So that seems unlikely. You know, it could be that he just, I don't really understand, like, why he was going off into the mountains with no stuff. Which, to me, that does make the suicide thing seem a little more likely.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you were actually, hey, just going for a hike or whatever, like, you would at least wear boots and, like, a coat and shit. I mean, it gets cold up there, you know? Like, you can't just go with and you need, like, water and at least some granola bars or shit.
How far of a hike did he say he was going to do? Did he say how far he was going?
It was about I think they said that it was like a 6-hour trek. But it was kind of rugged. The terrain was kind of rugged. Like it was like 12,500 feet up.
So it may only be a couple miles, huh?
I don't know exactly how many miles it was.
6 hours. Okay, 6 hours. No.
Yeah.
Okay. 6 miles an hour, probably about 3 miles an hour. I don't know, man. I'd have to see what the terrain is to know how far he walked. 6 hours, that's not saying anything.
Well, to be honest, they don't know how far he walked because they never found him.
Right.
So it's like they have no idea where he ended up.
Well, they didn't know where he was planning on going, did they?
No, he said he was going to the top of Pendleton Mountain.
Okay. Were there trails?
I assume, but they never found any. And as far as I know, they looked on that mountain and the other two mountains that were like surrounding it and like never found anything.
So it's 6 hours up and maybe 6 hours down. That's 12 hours. You'd want to take
I'm not sure if it's 6 hours round trip or if it was 6 hours one way. Like it wasn't real clear on that. I wasn't real clear on that.
Either suicide or foolishness.
Now
It was summertime. What time of the year was it?
Yeah, I think it was July or August. I think it was.
Maybe he was going up there and didn't have any water, started falling out from dehydration. And then sat there and fucking passed out, and then I don't know. I don't think you could die from dehydration that quickly.
No, it takes a while. I mean, to die from it depends on the person, obviously, but it usually takes at least a couple of days, like a few days, right?
Yeah,
3 days.
Somebody would have found him.
Something like that.
Somebody would have found him going down the
I think the
trails.
longest, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought the longest that anyone went without water was like 10 days, 11 days. And that's like an outlier.
Yeah, but I don't know how much physical activity they were doing.
That's what
If you're climbing a mountain, it's a lot different.
Well, yeah, you're going to die much quicker.
Yeah.
Well, it's just kind of like food. If you don't have enough food, like...
Right.
Because you're expending a lot of calories. But, yeah, so they're not real sure...
He had a gun on him.
Huh?
Did he have a gun on him?
No. It's
not the same.
Not
Okay.
as far as I know.
Okay.
No. That was the first guy.
That was the first guy.
That was the first guy that they think committed suicide.
Right.
This is the second guy that heard about that, and then they found his body. When Keith got to Silver Plume, Colorado, he heard about this dude that had disappeared, that owned the same shop that he was renting. You know what I mean? And it's like, ooh, what happened to him? And then while Keith was there, like a week before he disappeared, they found the dude's body. So he'd been missing for like a year.
Right.
And then he had a bullet hole in his head, and his dog had been shot.
Yeah, he killed his dog and then himself.
That's what they thought. But like I said, a lot of locals thought that he'd been murdered.
Suicide.
And so...
Suicide.
Maybe. And so people that thought that Tom Young had been murdered...
They didn't find the gun, though, did they?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, they found the gun?
Yeah, it was right there. It was right there.
Okay, yeah, then he shot the dog and then himself.
That's what the authorities thought.
Yeah.
It didn't look like anyone else had been there. But the second guy, they don't know what happened to him. Because it's just like he just wandered off without any shit and said that he was going to be back, but then he never came back. And they don't really know where he went. So they don't know if he went up there to kill himself or if he had some kind of accident because he didn't have any stuff, or he died of exposure, or... You know, if you want to get, like, real crazy, people that thought that Tom Young had been murdered, they thought that he knew something about some illegal nuclear waste dumping that had been going on in the area. And that he had been killed because of that. And that maybe Keith had found out about that, and that he got bumped off too. You know what I mean? Which is not impossible, probably pretty unlikely.
Sounds like he went up there and killed himself.
I mean, that does sound like the most likely thing. Other people have thought, well, maybe he just, like, took off to start a new life somewhere. Which, again, seems a little unlikely because...
You got a vehicle, you reappear, there's a bunch of different...
Well, I mean, and the thing about it is that they said, well, he didn't really seem to have, like, he loved his family and was going to go back to them, you know what I mean? It wasn't like he was, oh, I hate my family and I'm trying to go and... I mean, you know, nobody knows what's going on in other people's lives, I guess, but I don't know. Everybody that knew him thought that was pretty
Could be
unlikely.
went up there and had an accident and the animals got him.
I kind of feel like that's probably... I think
Yeah.
suicide or accident
Yeah.
are the most likely scenarios, especially because he didn't have any stuff with him. Like, he didn't have any supplies.
It's
Like,
odd.
he's just wearing tennis shoes, like, going up in it. But the weird thing is, like, why... He wasn't dumb. Like, I don't understand, like, why you would think, oh, I'm just going to wander to the top of this fucking mountain with just sneakers on.
I would do it if it was like only 5 miles. Because I could walk 5 miles up and 5 miles down. But I'd make sure that I was fucking plenty hydrated, though.
Yeah. I don't even know if he took any water with
Yeah.
him or anything.
Right.
Maybe he did, but I'm not really sure. They're just saying he didn't have a backpack, like, he didn't have any supplies. So he clearly was not planning on being gone long, whatever that means.
Yeah. Didn't worry about making it back. See?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about making it back.
Yeah. So...
You got to walk that 5 or 6 miles up the mountain and then 5 or 6 miles back down. Down is a lot easier, of course.
Yeah.
But you still got to do it. So you want to take something. Jacket.
Yeah.
And I don't know what type of year it is, but...
Like I said, it was July or August.
Okay.
So,
need
but
water.
it's Colorado, like, so it's not cold.
No.
It's a little bit cold, like, at higher elevations, but it's not like you would necessarily freeze.
You'd
to
want
death or
water,
anything.
maybe some snacks. Candy bar.
Yeah, you'd
Shit
think.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems kind of strange
Yeah.
that, like, the reason for him doing that. You know what I mean? And some people have also floated the possibility of there being a serial killer around there because there were some law enforcement in the area have said that they had found some various skeletal remains, not his, but they have found some skeletal remains, like, in the mountains around that area. So they speculated that maybe some of these people had been murdered and maybe there was some uncaught serial killer, like, wandering around out there, which again is a possibility. But like I said, in the wilderness, I kind of feel like it's probably more likely that people just met with accidents, you know what I mean, or died of exposure, other things of that nature. But to me, the weirdest thing about this case is the motivation. Like, he didn't have to go walking off into the mountains with no stuff. So, like, why would he do that? Like I said, he's not dumb, so it's like he must have known that that was a dumb idea. I don't know if he was sure, and like I said, he was excited about working on his book and everything like that. So maybe he's like, oh, I'm gonna go out and experience what this dude experienced or something like that. Without, maybe he was that dumb. Maybe he didn't know that, like, you should take stuff with you, like going for like a mountain hike. And it was like nighttime. Like, he didn't leave till like the afternoon. So I don't really know. But the whole fucking shit is weird. And like I said, they have never found a single hair of this dude. They have never found anything. No trace of him at all. Like I said, this was on Unsolved Mysteries back in 1990. I think this is where I first heard about that, like on the Unsolved Mysteries case. But there's also been, I think there's a documentary about it called Lost in the Wild that I think was from 2020, but which I haven't seen that. But so it's a case that a lot of people talk about because it's just so fucking weird. Like I said, the two guys, like, disappearing, like, what, well, you know, the first guy disappeared for a year and then they found his body, so they knew what happened to him. But the second guy they still haven't found, and they don't know what the fuck happened there. So I always thought that was pretty weird. Okay, so the next one we're going to talk about, Callow said, did he die? Well, we don't know. They never found him. The first guy died. They found him with a bullet in his head. The second guy, they never found him. So I'm assuming he's dead. But I guess there's just the barest possibility that he just wandered off and changed his identity. You know what I mean? I guess that could happen. It's happened before. But in this case, it's unlikely. I'm sure he's probably dead. They just don't know where he's at. So the next case I want to talk about is the case of Stacy Arras. Now, this happened in 1981, and this girl was 14 years old. Now, this happened in Yosemite National Park, that is in California, if you are not from the U.S. And this girl was going on, like, a horseback riding trip with her dad and, like, a few other people. Like, it was a group, and they were all going. And I guess they had gone on trips like this before. It wasn't like the first time. So This is July, like I said, of 1981. So she goes up there to Yosemite with her dad and all these people. And they were going to be up there for 4 days. And they go up there on July 17th. And there were some other like horseback riders up there that they were going to go around with. And I'm not entirely sure like how big a group they were with. It was at least 7 people, but it might have been as many as 20 people. So they get on their horses and they're riding around the Upper Cathedral Lakes. And they ride around, they stop in the afternoon like to eat or whatever. And then they ride around for a few more hours. And then they stop at these cabins and that are about 1.5 miles from Sunrise Lakes. So at these cabins, they decide, it's been a long ride. They've been riding horses all day. And so they're going to go in there and, take showers and change clothes and all that kind of stuff. And they were going to stay the night here. Because there was, the cabins had like all these beds and stuff and you could stay in them. So Stacy, the 14-year-old, she takes a shower, she changes her clothes, and then she tells her dad that she's going to go for a walk, like toward the Sunrise Lakes. She's going to take some pictures. Like she has her camera with her. And it was in Olympus. And she asked her dad if he wanted to go with her. Like it wasn't far, but he was like, "Nah, I'm kind of tired," you know what I mean? So there was this other guy in the group who was like an older man named Gerald, and he was like in his 70s. And he said, "Well, I'll go with her, if it would make you feel better." Because I don't know if they knew each other before, or if they just met on this trip or whatever. Because it seems kind of weird to let some rando old guy like go with your 14-year-old daughter, but whatever. Like maybe they knew him from before. So he said that he would go with her. So they're like, okay, fine. Now, so they go. The weird thing is that she was going to go and she had flip-flops on. And then her dad was like, "Well, why don't you put hiking boots on instead of flip-flops, dummy?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah, that's a good idea." So she put hiking boots on. So she goes, like everybody that was with them saw her walk over to this boulder thing. So she was in eyesight, you know what I mean? Like they could see her. And her and the old dude, Gerald, and she goes out there and starts taking some pictures with her camera. And she was going to go to this other lake, like to take some more pictures. And he said he would go with her. It wasn't far. Like I said, it was only like a couple 100 yards or some shit like that. So they go down this hill. And then the older guy, Gerald, says he's kind of tired. So he sits there because, he's in his 70s, whatever. So he sits down, like to kind of get his breath back or whatever. And some people, like he saw Stacy walking, like taking a picture and then going a little further down the hill, and like some other people saw her too. Like I said, she was like right there. She was just like over there. And she walks down the hill, like taking pictures or whatever. And then there were some trees and she kind of walked behind those. And that was the last time anybody ever saw her.
Something got her.
Like I said, she was right there, you know what I mean?
Somebody got her.
So, yeah. So after a while, like Stacy didn't come back. Like she went behind those trees and like, and then she didn't return. And so Gerald, the old guy, he started to freak out. She's like, "Where the fuck did she go? She was right there." And so he started walking over there, like trying to look for her, like thinking she would be right there, like I said, but she was gone. There was like no trace of her. So he looks around for a little while and he's like, shit. So then he goes back to the cabin area and gets everybody together and they all go out and...
How far was it?
It was like... I've seen different things. It was either... I'm not sure where exactly she was going. It was like either 150 yards...
Okay, so it's close.
Or, yeah, so it wasn't far.
Right.
Like, they could still see her.
Right, and he wasn't gone long enough to have done anything to her and then hidden the body. And he was a 70-something-year-old man. He wasn't all beaten up, 14-year-old girl.
Yeah, because people have thought of that, but...
The 14-year-old girl fuck a 70-year-old guy up.
Yeah, and there were other people around that could see her, so...
Somebody got her. It wasn't him, it was another dude.
Maybe.
I think it was a guy.
Or like I said, it might have been some other shit going on. But yeah, so yes, they all looked and they couldn't find anything. Like, they found no trace of her. So they were all searching around on their horses and everything like that, because like I said, it was a horseback riding trip. And after a while, they went to the park rangers and reported her missing. They actually found some people that had been horseback riding, had come up from that direction where she had gone, and they had not seen her.
Yeah.
Like, you'd think they would have if she was just walking like normally, but
she was taken off the roads.
They had not seen her. So they do this huge search. They got sniffer dogs. They got the whole thing, like doing this whole helicopters and all of that. Now, they searched for several days, and then they kind of scaled it back because they figured, well, we searched from the air and everything like that. They searched for a couple more days on the ground doing grid searches and shit like that. But after a week, they didn't find anything, and so they gave up. Now, I've heard differing reports on this. Most reports that you'll hear about this, like if you see, because there's a lot of other shit about this particular case, like on the internet, and most of the cases say the only thing of her they ever found was the lens cap off her camera, which was just laying there. Now, according to the Lost Lore channel, I think it's called Lost Lore channel, he looked at the contemporaneous news reports from the time that this happened in 1981, and he said in those reports, it said they didn't find anything. So they didn't even find a lens cap. I don't know where the lens cap detail came from. That might have been a later addition. Like, all they found was a camera lens cap, which is, like, super creepy. But he says in the original newspaper reports, they said they didn't find anything.
And dogs couldn't track her.
At all.
Dogs.
Yeah, no. They never found... Because they brought dogs in.
Yeah.
Like I said, that was one of the things that David Paulides, that was one of his criteria for the missing 411 cases. And that happened in several of the cases where they bring in sniffer dogs, and the sniffer dogs couldn't get a trail or couldn't find anything, or just got confused and ran around in circles or whatever. Like, it was always something weird like that. And in this case, yeah, they brought in sniffer dogs, but they couldn't find anything.
I think somebody was watching her.
Could have been.
She walked off and was by herself, and he grabbed her. Grabbed her and probably fucking knocked her out. Or tell her to be quiet. Did his thing with her and then killed her. And did something with the body. Or animals did something with the body. But it's just off. It's odd that the dogs couldn't track her. Because the dogs had her scent. If they'd have items from her,
yeah,
you'd think they would just go, yeah, this is what she smells like. This is where we last saw her. The dogs would know where to start the trail.
Yeah, I mean, even if somebody was taken away in a car, dogs can usually like where the car was.
Where the car was.
And then they're like, okay, well, they lost the trail, so she must have gotten a car and blah, blah, blah.
She was pulled off a trail.
But I will note that in this case particularly, they thought that the reason that the dogs were having such a hard time finding a trail was that it'd been really, really dry and the ground was like really dusty. And I guess there wasn't enough wind or something like that. It was like the environmental conditions were not ideal, I guess, for like sniffer dogs. So they thought maybe that might have been a factor why they weren't able to pick her trail up, but they weren't. And yeah, so that's the weird thing. It's like, yeah, the terrain, like the boulders and stuff were kind of rocky, but they searched like a 5-mile radius, and it's like they looked in every single crevice and every single everything, and it's like you'd think that if she just fell or some shit like that, like they would find her body.
First of all, she wouldn't have kept walking. You know what I mean? Like, she went off and then she went around a little corner, and then that was the last time you saw her. She wouldn't have kept going. You know what I mean? She wouldn't. Yeah. She knew she would get lost. She didn't get lost, though.
Yeah, I kind of feel like maybe
somebody grabbed her.
Because it's like, it's not only that they never found, if it had been an accident, you know, she was only gone for like a minute, like a couple minutes. Like they saw her like just go behind a tree.
She couldn't go far.
And then it's like, how far could she have gone? Really, she wouldn't have kept walking, like I said.
Somebody was watching her, and then when she was by herself, he fucking jumped out of there and grabbed her.
And one of the things they were looking for too was that, well, maybe she got taken by an animal, but it's like they didn't find any evidence of that either, right? Because obviously there'd be blood on the ground or tracks or something like that, and they didn't find anything like that either.
She was killed within minutes, probably.
maybe so.
Yeah, dude jumped on her, fucking assaulted her, and strangled her, and left her. Maybe he hid the body, and the dogs couldn't find it. Couldn't find it. Might have covered it up. Might have been something real, like covered it up with leaves or something. They couldn't see it. Might have been something like that. And then the dogs didn't pick up the scent for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about it...
She's probably there.
I mean, people have speculated that maybe the old guy she was with did something to her.
Did he have time, though?
I kind of don't think so. The area was a little bit remote, but they said that there was a road, like, only a couple miles, like 4 miles away from the camp. Some people have also maybe speculated that she ran away deliberately, because she'd been having a little bit of trouble at home. But I was like, for two...
Why would you run away from that location?
Well, yeah, for two reasons.
Yeah.
That seems a little bit... Because one thing, she was going to walk off in flip-flops until her dad said, hey, put some hiking boots on. Yeah. Which, if you were going to just run away, that seems unlikely for you to do. And also, she asked her dad to come with her at first.
Yeah.
He just didn't want to.
Right.
So it's like, so if you were going to run away, you wouldn't really ask your dad to come with you, right? If you were trying to, like, get away from your family. So I don't think she necessarily ran away on purpose. In this case, I think in most of the cases that were in the missing 411 books, I think it was probably like misadventure. I think they were probably like they fell in a hole or an animal got them or something like that. This case kind of seems more like
murder. I think
somebody got her. It seems like.
Yeah, serial killers have been known to go to parks.
Yeah.
There are some of them that got people from there. And, you know, some motherfucker was watching her probably. And then as soon as she was out of the eye shot of everybody else, he fucking ran up there and fucking boom, knocks her out, drags her, or fucking grabs her and says, come on, baby. You know, fucking covers her mouth. Does stuff to her and then kills her quickly. She probably was dead within minutes. Within 15 minutes, probably.
15, I'm not real sure of the terrain there, but it's just like... It could have been somebody that lived out there, or somebody that lived near there and hunted by there.
Another camper.
Could have been another camper. You know, it's not crazy. Because like I said, there was other people around there. It's not like it was in the super middle of nowhere. So, yeah, in this case, to me, it really does seem like... Because like I said, if it had just been an accident or something like that, they would have found her.
Yeah.
You would think. Because, you know, she didn't have time to get that far. So I kind of feel like in this case...
Had she been attacked by an animal, she'd have made all kinds of noise.
Well, and like I said, they looked for evidence of that, too, because obviously they thought of that. And they're like, we didn't see... There were no animal tracks, there was no blood, there was no nothing. You know?
Somebody walked up on her and either silenced her in some way by knocking her out or covering her mouth. Putting a strap around her throat. Choked her. Drug her off somewhere. Did his thing and fucking then just left the body and hid it, covered it up, and then he went back up on the trail, you know, went back into the woods and then cut back up on the trail and fucking started to walk the other direction. Something like that.
Senior Stick says maybe she fell down a hole. And James Knapp says Nick, a.k.a. the Missing Enigma YouTuber, went there, like to where she disappeared from, and feels she fell down a crevice as it's real steep around there.
Huh.
Which maybe she did. Like I said, that's possible. They did look, but...
Well, you think the crevice would be right around where you last saw her?
You would think that.
Probably be easy.
But I don't really know how deep they were or if they couldn't search them or something like that. That would kind of be a different situation, because if there are indeed crevices that you can't search down because they're too deep or whatever.
She could yell up through the crevice. They would have found her.
Yeah. Or she just fell and died immediately.
Or died immediately, yeah.
And then they just couldn't like find her because it was too far down.
You think they would have checked all that? But maybe not.
Well, like I said, I'm sure they did, but maybe there was some places they couldn't get to.
Seems like foul play to me.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I've never been there, so I don't know what it looks like.
Yeah.
So, but just from the details that I read about it, it does kind of seem like somebody took her. But I don't really know. All right, I have to go to the bathroom, so and I'm gonna get another drink while I'm up. Because I'm still on my first one.
Right.
Still on my first one. Yeah, just answer some questions while
okay.
Go into the bathroom, if there are.
All right. All right. She told me to answer some questions. Let's see. Go back here. All right. Okay, CB's asking me if I watched the Mike Tyson Jake Paul match. He made the mistake of watching it. I think he said live the woman. I don't know what that means. Were the best part of that. I didn't see the woman. I just saw. I didn't see it when it was streaming. I was at the club, but when next morning I got up, I already heard that he lost by decision. And then I saw like highlights of the fight, and yeah, man, fucking Tyson wasn't doing too good. He was slow. I think, well, he's old. That's part of it. He's old, but I don't think he's out. He could probably train and train and fucking get his gear just right. Make sure he's got a lot of testosterone. Fucking go back into training, build up some more fucking muscle and more speed. He's got experience. It's just that it didn't seem like he was actually using his experience. It's almost kind of like he lacked confidence. They traded a lot of blows, but Tyson couldn't knock him out. But that guy couldn't knock him out either. So it's real hard. It was real hard to knock out Mike Tyson. I don't think he only got knocked out like what twice, I think. Okay.
What were you?
They're saying that she either fell down a hole or a serial killer got her.
I kind of feel like those are the two most likely, two most likely possibilities. Like I said, I haven't seen the terrain. If there are a lot of deep crevices around there, then yeah, I would think that was probably more likely. But it does seem weird that she didn't scream, or because there was people not that far away, so you'd think they would have heard her. You know? But like I said, I don't know. I'm just some dumbass on the internet speculating about these mysterious fucking cases.
Tammy said that Tyson looked 1,000 times better in his training videos. I think it was a lot of it, I think, had to do with confidence. Tyson hasn't been in a fight in a long time. He was afraid of getting knocked out. He looked like he was not very aggressive. Back in the day, he'd just come right in and just boom, 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 boom. You didn't last long against him. He was a wrecking ball. Just like fighting a dumpster or dump truck. What I meant, like fighting a dump truck. You might as well fight a bulldozer. But every king has his reign.
Senior Stick says maybe someone set a trap and she fell in. Yeah, which would cover both possibilities.
They'd find the trap.
You'd think. Well, see, what James just said, it said lots of crevices are so deep you can't check real easy to fall in. You fall in, hit your head, and be dead and never found. Yeah, so like I said, if that was the case, if there was that around there, then yeah, it would have been really easy to just slip into that, and then they would never find her, But I don't know.
Yeah, they would. They'd find her. She'd fall down in the crap, but you know what I mean? They'd look down in there. The crevices weren't underground, were they? Are you talking about a cliff? Crevices in a cliff face? Or
yeah, maybe something like that.
But the thing is, they just looked down the cliff.
Yeah.
They would have found her. Somebody got her.
It just seems weird that they never found anything.
Yeah.
Or they just found the lens cap. I don't know if that's true, but like I said, they either just found a lens cap or they found absolutely nothing.
She wasn't far from where she was last seen.
No.
Yeah, she was dead within 15 minutes. So they couldn't, on foot you can't go very far in that amount of time.
See, those are the ones that are
right
creepier
there
to me, because I think one of these cases that I'm pretty sure we discussed on one of our other, creepy disappearances shows was the Dennis Martin case, where the kid he was with a bunch of other kids and his parents and shit like that, and him and some of the other kids said, hey, we're gonna hide behind these bushes and pop out and scare their parents or whatever. And so they all did that, but then 5 minutes later, Dennis goes behind a bush, and then 5 minutes later he's completely disappeared. Yeah. And they never found him.
Weird.
So that kind of shit is creepy to me, where it's just kind of kid is like, hey, I'm just gonna go behind this tree, and then poof, then they're completely
Well, it
gone.
might have been some tomfoolery. Maybe he thought, well, I'll just disappear out this way and I'll come back around and fucking reappear and come around behind him. And then he gets lost.
Yeah. Now, there were some people that, and including his family, that thought he got kidnapped. But I think we discussed that on the other show. But I don't know if I believe that or not, but I'm not really sure. It could have happened. But yeah.
I'd have to see the terrain. I mean, most of the places in the United States, you can see pretty far in a coniferous forest, usually. Usually you got a good, well, it depends on how much undergrowth there is, but I just have to see the terrain, you know. If you're in undergrowth, you can't see very far at all. But you also can't travel through it very far quickly. So if you could travel pretty quickly through the shit, it's probably pretty open. So you might be able to see, 75 meters, 50 meters. That might be visibility. And if you go down into open places, like go to the wood line and go across the field, you might be able to see, half a click. Never can't tell. But I had to see the place to understand what the visibility is.
Yeah.
You can't disappear in a place that has good visibility. So it must be pretty thick to disappear.
Yeah.
In other words, visibility like maybe 20 meters.
Like I said, I don't know, man. But just it's scary to me that somebody could just like walk behind a tree and then
vanish.
a minute later they're gone. And then there's like no sign
Wasn't
of
that
them
simple.
anywhere.
It's
But
not
no,
that
but I'm
simple.
saying like from their point of view, that's what it seemed like.
Yeah.
It seemed like she was just there and then she was gone and then they never found any
But a
traces
person
of it.
who's not real aware of what's going on and they're not really attuned to things, they're not paying attention to the sound of footsteps and shit like that, And they're not really paying attention to the passage of time because they're not alert. You know what I mean? They haven't been alerted. They're relaxed. So she might have been gone a little bit longer than he thought she was. Like he might have thought it was only a couple minutes, but it might have been like 10 minutes. And she may have covered more distance than he thought that she had. It's impossible. I have to see the terrain.
Yeah, some people, I will note that there is like a little subsection of a lot of people have taken like all the missing 411 cases and laid them over maps of like underground caves in the U.S., like maybe saying that they fall through or maybe implying that like cave people like from the descent like come out and get them. I'm not really sure, but I don't know. Like I said, it's such a wide area. I think people are like trying to make shit more mysterious than it is, but I know why people do that. It's more fun, I guess, but I don't know. I think a lot of these are just, but this case is kind of, I mean, Stacey Harris's case is kind of weird because, like I said, she was just there and then she was gone, and the fact that they found absolutely no trace of her at all, other than maybe the lens cap, but I'm not sure if that's true or not. But that just seems very, very odd to me, Senor Stick says, speaking of death, how was Thanksgiving looking? I mean, we'll probably do the same thing we do every year. We're just going to make a big-ass turkey and all the sides, and I'll probably just eat way too much and watch the MST3K Turkey Day Marathon streaming on YouTube is probably what I'll do. That's what I do pretty much every year. I just lay in bed eating that. Like, watching that and, like, eating way more than... honestly, I can't... I want to eat all of it, but I eat one plate of Thanksgiving food and I'm like, man, that was so good. But then it's like, man, if I eat any more, I'm going to throw up. And then, so I have to wait, like, several hours. And then we just leave it all out so we can kind of go back and pick at it. But shit, last year, like, I just ate one plate. I couldn't even eat a piece of pie. I had to, like, wait until that night, like, to eat pie because I couldn't eat anymore. Senor Six was asking us how Thanksgiving was looking.
It's going to be all right.
Yeah.
I'm going to do something simple. I got turkeys already. I got 3 turkeys.
Well, you got to get a lot of turkeys around.
They're cheap.
Because I love turkey, and I'll eat it when it's not Thanksgiving.
Yeah, keep it frozen.
So last year we bought like 6 turkeys or some shit. Did we buy 6?
They were so cheap.
They were so cheap.
Yeah.
Like I think we bought like 6 turkeys.
Yeah.
And we just kept them. We have a big freezer in the garage, and we just kept them in there, and we just like parceled them out and like ate them over the year.
Yeah.
And
Well, they're like 37 cents a pound or something.
yeah,
crazy
it was
shit.
ridiculous.
Get a
We're
big
like,
old-
holy shit.
Get a big,
Like
get
they
a
had
big,
a
huge
well,
turkey
what
for
we
like
did.
$11.
They had a limit. You can only buy 2 per person, but
Yeah.
it's like so that both of us went, and like so we each bought 2,
Yeah.
and then we went the next
couple
day
days and got some.
and then bought 2. You know what I mean? So we just did that
Yeah.
because like I said, I love turkey, and like if it's that cheap, you can do a lot with it. You
Yeah.
can make soup with that. We made curry with it. You can
Yeah.
make all kinds of shit.
And they get even cheaper after Thanksgiving's over because that's the overstocks. And then they try to just get rid of them.
Just trying to get rid of it, so then we get some more.
Yeah.
Because like I said, we got a big freezer and we can keep them in there.
Yep.
And I don't mind. Hell, I think a few months ago, didn't we make like kind of a Thanksgiving, like we didn't do the whole Thanksgiving
No,
thing,
but
we made a turkey
turkey dressing, cranberry,
and dressing and cranberries
and
some potatoes, I think.
yeah, mashed potatoes and gravy.
Yeah.
It's easy to do.
Yeah, and like I said,
The biggest pain in the ass is just washing the turkey.
Yeah.
Thawing the turkey out, wash it. You gotta wash it with salt. Just rub salt all over it, get the skin nice and clean. Then stuff it. Put butter all over it. Fucking cover it with aluminum foil.
I can't wait.
Bake it real slowly over a period of like 6 hours.
Thanksgiving
5
is kind
hours.
of an awesome holiday because it's like no one really has any expectations of you. Like,
Yeah.
well, other than if you're hosting and you have to cook all the shit.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like
You
after
just
you cook,
eat.
all, you just eat. You just eat,
lay
and,
around.
and watch Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah.
I know some people watch football. I don't play that. I watch the MST3K Turkey Day Marathon and have every
Yeah.
single year for many years. That's my Thanksgiving tradition. Yeah. Phantom says leftover turkey recycled into turkey pot pie is banging. Oh,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's on. Ooh, we should do that this year. If
Yeah.
we have any leftover.
Yeah, I made some curry with turkey, didn't I?
You did, yeah. You made.
It was
turkey.
pretty good.
That was very good.
Yeah. Big old cubes of fucking turkey breast in there. I think it was kind of like butter chicken, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They used the butter chicken.
Yeah,
fucking-
it was good, like a butter chicken kind of
Yeah.
thing, but with turkey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Butter turkey.
Butter turkey. Yeah, CB said, Jenny, when you eat too much, does your belly make you pay the next day? Yeah,
Just
it's... Yeah. Honestly, like I said, I can't eat the way I used to when I was younger. I
Yeah.
think most people have that problem. But I can't... Like I said before, we go to the Chinese buffet. Like, Tom can eat 3 or 4 plates. I eat 1 plate of, like, some salad and, like, a couple little cold shrimp or whatever. And then I can eat 1 plate of, like, a couple little hot things, and then I can't eat anymore. Like, literally I'll barf.
Yeah.
It's just, it won't, my stomach won't hold that much anymore.
Yeah.
I think it shrank over the years.
Yeah, somebody had canned turkey. No, I haven't had canned turkey. I think
yeah.
I've had canned sliced turkey, like turkey sandwich meat type stuff. So maybe I have. It's not the best.
I mean, although I will note that a few times we've gotten like canned chicken.
I had turkey spam.
Oh yeah,
Remember that?
That's
That was
right.
pretty good. Yeah.
we
pretty good.
got canned chicken at the dollar store a couple
Yeah.
times, and like Tom made like curries and shit like that out of it, and you would never know that was out of
Yeah.
the can.
Yeah. Well, mostly though, I make like chicken salad.
Chicken
curry.
salad, yeah.
It's like it's curry and chicken salad.
Like curried chicken salad. Yeah.
Curry, yeah.
That's
It's
got,
cold.
like,
It's cold chicken salad.
Cold, and it's got
curry.
cranberries and
Yeah. Nuts and cranberries and
yeah, it's good. Put it on some
diced
nice
onion.
crusty bread.
Put it on bread. Yeah.
We should put apples in it too,
If I had them, I just used whatever I had.
or hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah.
That's good too.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good in curry though. Well, it might. It's good in regular
I
chicken
mean, they
salad.
make egg curry. I had egg curry
Yeah.
at the Indian restaurant.
Yeah,
It's
Indian
pretty
restaurant was pretty good. We got to get back to the stories though.
good. I know. Yeah. Well, they asked about Thanksgiving, and that is coming up next week. So, not tomorrow, but the week after. All right. So, talking about kids that disappeared. Here's another one that's a little bit weird. So this is Garrett Bardsley. Now, this one happened in August of 2004. Now, Garrett was 12 years old, and he was with his dad, whose name was Kevin, and they were on, like, a Boy Scout camping trip. I don't know if it was like a sanctioned Boy Scout camp. It was just like, a bunch of the kids and parents and stuff like that. And they were all going on a camping trip together. You know what I mean? So this was in, I'm not sure how you pronounce this, Uintah? It's in Utah. The Uintah Mountains.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, me either. But I'm not from Utah. I've never been there. I've been in New Mexico and Colorado, but I've never been to Utah. So, so they were going up on this Boy Scout trip. And they were going to go fishing. Now, there were 18 Boy Scouts and about 7 adults, chaperones. And they were staying there for like 3 days, like from Thursday to Saturday or Thursday to Sunday or something like that. Now, while they were fishing one day, I think this was the Friday, Garrett got all wet. Like his shoes got wet and his pants and socks and stuff. And so he tells his dad, well, I'm going to walk back to the camp to like change my clothes because they're wet. You know what I mean? Because, that kind of sucks, like having wet clothes. And he's like, yeah, I'll just go and change real quick and then I'll come back and we'll do some more fishing. And the rest of the scouts were at the camp, and the camp was like less than 200 feet away. Like, it was right there. You know what I mean? And this trail was, like, pretty familiar. They had been in this area before. So the dad was like, okay, well, there's the trail, so everyone else is around. So just go back there and change your clothes or whatever. Now, the dad was watching the kid, and he walked on the trail around the lake, and he kind of went the wrong way for a second, but then his dad's like, no, like, go that way. And he's like, oh, okay, so he went the right way. You know what I mean? Like, go back to camp. And then the kid disappeared. Even though, like he could see him. Yeah. And like I said, he almost kind of went the wrong way, but he was, like, within voice distance, too, because he said, no, that's the wrong way, go that way. And the kid's like, oh, yeah, that's right. And then he goes back, like, toward the camp. But then the kid, like, pretty much vanished.
How long did it take before he realized that the kid was gone? About
15 minutes.
Okay, so a lot could have happened during that time.
Like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then, like, the dad was like after he saw him, like, go, and he thought, because, like I said, the camp was right there. It was, like, it was really close. So the kid doesn't come back, and he's like, because he just said he was just going to go up there and change his pants and socks and then come right back.
How old was he?
12. And, yeah, so he didn't come back. So the dad, like, after about 15, 20 minutes, he's like, well, shit, what the hell's going on? So he goes back to the camp, and obviously the kid is nowhere to be found, and none of the other scouts had seen him either. So they get everybody out to search. Everybody shows up, and the only thing that they found of this kid was one of his socks, which was wet, and it was laying, like, in some rocks or something.
In some where?
In some rocks.
How far away from where they first last saw him?
Like, not far. Like, less than a quarter mile.
Pervert got him.
Like, that's all they found was one wet sock.
Yeah.
That was kind of, like, rolled up.
Yeah, pervert got him. Dude got him.
And they thought it was weird, too, because he had been carrying his fishing pole.
Yeah.
And they never found that either. Which you think if somebody snatched him, like, he would have dropped it, or if an animal attacked him, like, he would have dropped it. But they never found that. The only thing they ever found was that fucking wet sock.
Yeah. He's a 12-year-old Boy Scout.
Yeah.
They'd have some perverts have a fetish for that. And one of them got him. They must have known the Boy Scouts were going to be there. See, because if it's around that camp, I can't picture bear or cougar or something like that. And the kid screamed bloody murder.
You'd think.
Most likely. You know what I mean?
Oh, wait, I misspoke. The sock was actually found a half a mile away.
Half a mile away, okay.
Half a mile.
Okay. He was taken somewhere.
Because, yeah, that wasn't where he was headed.
Guy was walking him somewhere and his fucking socks got wet. He just took them off. Something like that.
And they thought that if he just wandered off, which seems unlikely because, like I said, the camp was right there. It was like 200 yards away or something. And there's really no way he would have gotten lost.
How big was he? Do we know?
Don't know. I don't know how big he was.
Might have been small enough to control. But some 12-year-old boys have been pretty fucking big. So I don't know. I think some dude got him.
I mean, maybe so. It just seems like... And
It
James...
was up by the bathroom.
Huh?
It was by the bathroom. Is that where he was going? He's going to the dressing room? What was
No,
going?
he was just going back up toward the camp.
Towards the camp. All right.
Like, I don't know.
There
I'm
wasn't a
assuming.
structure there,
I'm
right?
assuming. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm assuming there was maybe cabins there or
Yeah.
bathrooms or something like that. Because he was just going to change. Because, like I said, he got wet, so he was going to change his pants and his socks.
He's going to change somewhere. Probably in the bathroom.
So I don't know. There might have been cabins.
Cabins, something
is
like
what
that.
I was saying. But like I said,
Yeah.
they were right there.
It's unlikely that was an animal.
Well, yeah, and some people pointed out, and James just pointed out, it said
Yeah.
if it was a bear or a cougar, the fishing pole would be right there. And
Yeah.
that's what the authorities thought, too. Because they did think, oh, maybe he got snatched by an animal. But it's like, yeah, but then his fishing pole
Would be laying there.
would be laying there.
Yeah.
And they never found it. Like, all they ever found was that sock.
Took
And that
it
was
with
like
him.
half a mile away.
Some dude jumped out and gave him a line, told him, come on, we got to go there. Something. They said, you got to go this way, something like that. Used some kind of ruse on him. And then got him alone. And just fucking forced him to go somewhere. He didn't make it. Or you
Yeah,
heard
this
from
is
him by
kind of
now.
another situation where...
Ugh.
there's really no evidence. They said, I mean, the authorities did look into the possibility of a kidnapping because they thought that was, obviously that was a possibility, but they're like, there wasn't enough evidence of that. But then on the other hand, there wasn't much evidence of anything else either because they didn't, there was no evidence of animal attack. They searched very thoroughly, like this whole area, and they didn't find a body. They didn't find anything. They didn't find any of his stuff. They didn't find any of his other clothes other than the sock.
Some dude got to him.
So...
It took him.
and they're like, if he just wandered off, like, he for sure would have died in the night because it got super, super cold that night. Like, freezing. Like, below freezing. So, so he would have died regardless, like, even if he just got lost. But they
Yeah.
never did find him. Like, and they looked for him for 9 days.
He died after he was taken. Walked his ass maybe a mile or so away. Dude did something to him and killed him. And for some reason they didn't find the body. He hit it. He hit it well.
And James makes
Or
the
the
point,
animals
too,
got
it's
to
like
it.
the sock wasn't even confirmed as his. It could have been a searcher's.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Okay.
Like, they assumed it was his because it was kid
Alright.
size and it was a Nike sock, which is the same socks that he had on.
Alright.
But they're like, that doesn't necessarily mean that it was his. Like,
Yeah.
it could have been somebody else's. But,
Doesn't make sense that he would have gone off on his own or got lost, because there's no way to get lost. It wouldn't have been an animal, so that means it was a human. That's the only possibility.
yeah, I kind of feel like...
Unless you're gonna say fucking Skookum showed up from the spiritual dimension and grabbed him and took him to another dimension.
Which, like I
spiritual
said,
Bigfoot.
I know a lot of these cases are weird, like the people just like vanish and they don't find any sign of them. But it's like, I kind of feel like it's more likely, like you said, that it's a person.
Yeah, it was old pervert dressed up in probably in a Boy Scout troop leader uniform. How much I bet? He knew that area.
Honestly, there's a possibility too that one of the other adults with the group did it.
Maybe. Yep.
I mean, that's
Somebody he knew.
You got to keep that in mind also.
Might have been somebody he knew. Yeah.
And then pretended to come in. Well, I don't know where he is, and then like
Yeah.
help look for him and shit like
Yeah.
that. Like I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying
that's also likely.
that's also a possibility.
That's also likely.
That's also a possibility.
Whoever it is knew that Boy Scouts would be in that area. So that means they knew the routine of that. They came at a certain type of year. He's either a dude who goes to that campground, or he was in that troop. You know what I mean? He was working inside. He was one of the Boy Scout leaders or something. Something like that. That makes a lot more sense.
It does, yeah.
So it wasn't an accident that he disappeared. The dude knew he would be there. So it was either some pervert that knew Boy Scouts came here at a certain type of year, he's waiting for it, or he was with them. Which is the same thing. You've infiltrated from within.
Yeah. Because there was a bunch of I think there was at least like 7 adults with them.
Yeah.
Like, and there was a whole bunch of kids, like 18 kids or something.
It was either one of them or somebody who knew about them. That's probably what it was.
Yeah.
Imagine that's what the cops thought. But they couldn't
Like I
figure
said,
anybody.
they always have to think of that. I mean, if I thought of that possibility, then I know that the cops
I'm
did.
sure they were all in. It's probably one of these dudes.
But like, they probably just couldn't prove it.
Or somebody else that knew that Boy Scouts came there at a certain time of year.
Yeah. Because some of these, like I said, if a place is like really isolated and you go there by yourself and you disappear, that's not really that weird. Like I said, maybe you just fell in a hole or something or got eaten by a bear. But if you're in a place where a lot of campers go and a lot of people are around,
It's not the wild, really.
then yeah. I mean, it still kind of is, but it's not like
really.
you're out in the middle of nowhere with nobody else around.
You're connected to civilization still.
Right. Camp Guy says, we camped in the Okefenokee Swamp in Boy Scouts. Bet there were alligators all around our campsite area. Lots of gators in that swamp. It's like a ranger told me if you left a dog tied to a car or a tree and went inside the camp store, a gator would be likely to get the dog. Yeah, not surprising.
Yeah, there was a case that we covered one time where they found 2 little Girl Scouts. Or were they Girl Scouts that got killed where they were camping? They found them inside their tent dead, I think.
Yeah. They pretty much...
They found out who it was.
Well, they haven't proved it.
Pretty sure they knew who it was.
That happened in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Like, we did a show about that.
It was, if I remember correctly, it was like a Native American guy, right? That was
Yeah,
in
that's
area.
who they thought maybe did it. Like,
Yeah.
he seemed real sus. You know. I can't remember what his name was,
It
but...
was somebody in that area at that time.
Yeah, it was 3 little girls.
Yeah, 3 little girls, that's right. How did he kill them?
I think he stabbed them.
Stabbed them? Yeah, cut their throats or something.
They found him. I think they found him outside the tent.
Yeah,
Were
it
they
was
outside the tent?
took him outside the tent, killed him. But I think he had
Or
sex with them
something.
in the tent.
Yeah, I think
And
he
they took
raped
him out
them,
one
too.
by one and killed him, I think.
Yeah, I think they call it like the Oklahoma Girl Scout murders or something
Yeah.
like that. Like when did that was like 70s? 70s
Yeah.
or 80s? I think it was 70s.
70s or 80s.
Can't remember.
So, you know.
Fucked up shit happened.
So it wouldn't be the first time that somebody went after the scouts.
Right.
Scout troops. Yeah, they do that.
Tammy said it was Bigfoot dressed as a Boy Scout.
Bigfoot shows up like fucking with the little shorts and everything.
Oh my God, I
and
love
a little
it.
scarf.
That'd be so cute.
Yeah, and he got a bulge in his pants.
I'm gonna AI that shit.
Yeah.
Bigfoot with a Boy Scout.
Yeah, and he's real fucking sus. He likes little boys
He's
too much.
he's trying to blend in.
He likes little boys too much.
I'm in the troop.
Yeah.
I'm big for my age.
Wherever they are, that's
and
where
really
he
hairy
is.
for my age.
Yeah, big hairy. And he's pretending like he's a little boy and shit. Trying to.
Tiny. Oh my goodness. All right, so someone is asking me, quick question, how do you edit your videos so well? Well, I'm assuming you don't mean this one because this is a live stream and I don't edit these at all.
Edit these all, yeah.
But my other videos, I never thought I was that good at editing. I use a program called Filmora that I think was $60 for a lifetime license or something like that. And I just kind of wing it. I taught myself to edit videos. And like I said, I don't think I'm particularly good at it, especially like after I see some other ones. I'm just like, oh man, I didn't even think to do that. But I just basically the only thing that I edit out of my recorded videos is if I'm saying too much, or if I fuck up, like if I stumble over my words or something, like I'll take that out. But other than that, like I edit it very, very little. Very little. Yeah. So, Bigfoot dressed as a Boy Scout. I'm gonna write that. I'm gonna write that down because I'm gonna put
It's
that.
gotta be a pervy Boy Scout though.
Bigfoot with Boy Scout uniform. I'm gonna make an AI thing of that tomorrow.
That's gonna be fucking awesome. That'd be a good shirt.
Yeah, maybe I can do fucking.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'll try to get unicorn.
Yeah.
I wrote unicorn instead of uniform.
He's popping a boner and he's trying to hide it.
Oh man.
His pants, you know. Fucking, yeah. Fucking pervy ass fucking Bigfoot.
That's what I mean. He's trying to blend in with the Boy Scouts
Yeah.
and stuff. Like doing
And the bitch
little...
is wearing high heels too.
Oh, okay.
At the same time, yeah.
I mean, that seemed like it would. Why do you have high heels on? We're in the wilderness. I just like high heels, okay?
You ever see that thing from fucking? Oh, and show you the reason why I got talk about. Wang did a program on some of these fucking creepy ass fucking PDF file fucking social media accounts, and one of them was a dude who's obviously a fucking full grown dude, kind of chubby, with a little boy mask. It's creepy as shit. All right, and he's dressed in shit like that schoolboy clothes with high heels.
Odd.
And with using a fake voice like it's real high, and he's pretending to be a child.
There's some fucking weirdos out there.
Weird, yeah, weird. That was on fucking. There's a good channel called Wang. He did a whole fucking show on that dude. They know where he is. He's in England.
I'm gonna have to see that.
They know where he is. He's in England. They found him. They know his real name and everything.
Maybe we can watch that after the show. 'Cause
Okay,
that sounds
yeah.
really interesting.
Oh, that's fucking weird, man.
I like Wang's videos, but
Yeah.
the only ones I can't watch, like I said, are the ones about like the cum jars and shit like that, because that's fucking gross.
The real gross shit. Yeah.
But although Blowfly Girl doesn't gross me out, but
Yeah.
the one that he did about that. But for some reason the cum jar.
When I drove from here to Mississippi and back after my dad passed, man, the whole way there and back is listening to Wang.
Yeah.
I had an internet
He's
connection
cool.
the whole
I
way.
like him.
The fucking GPS was taking me down places in Alabama and Mississippi that I had never seen before. These back roads, it was fucking great, man. I didn't realize how pretty it was back there. And little bitty narrow roads just winding. And I'm going like 60, 70 through it. It's like, I didn't even know what, didn't see another car for hours and hours and hours. Just these pretty little farms, you know. And listening to Wang, I was laughing the whole way. Made the trip go by real fast. Man, I never made that trip before without GPS. GPS changed everything.
I'm so glad that was invented.
Yeah. I'm sitting there, I'm fucking computing how long it's going to take to get there, fucking where the gas stops are going to be. I'm going, man, this is a fucking piece of cake, traveling with this. Back in the day, we had to stop and fucking pull out fucking Thomas map book and try to figure out, okay, where am I going? You're writing down what exit you got to get off at.
Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah, and your route was never real efficient. It was just simple. You tried to do as simple as you could. Well, shit, man, you'd lose 200 miles just trying to go simple. I went direct. It took me down little bitty fucking roads, country roads and shit. But it was good. But I got there fast. It saved me hours and hours going that way.
Camp Guy tells me that they actually did solve the Girl Scout murders. They said it actually was that guy. They matched his DNA, but he's dead.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what was his name. Leroy Hart or Jerry Hart or his Hart was his last name, right?
Yeah.
I
remember him as being Native American, or at least part Native American.
Yeah, something like that.
Somebody had long black hair and thing.
He was like the prime suspect the
Yeah.
whole time because he was sketchy as shit.
Went down there and got him three little girls.
Yeah.
And I guess those are the only people he killed, huh?
Mm-hmm. Well, that they know of.
That they know of, yeah.
But I guess if they have his DNA, I guess they can match it to maybe
Yeah.
other unsolved cases. Because somebody that would do something like that,
You'd think that wouldn't be the only crime.
yeah, there's probably other shit out there that they did.
Something they did first. You had to warm up to that. Do a triple homicide.
That's what I'm
on
saying.
little girls.
Shit, man, I was watching because you know how much I love the true crime. And I've been watching this show. What's it called? Murder Comes to Town, and it's I don't know what channel it was on originally. I'm just watching it on HBO Max. So and it's kind of about real small towns where a horrible murder happens. And the one that I was watching last night, I can't remember what town it was. Was it somewhere? Because I watched 4 or 5 of them in a row, so I don't remember what state this was in. I feel like it was maybe Georgia, but it could have been Oklahoma. And there were these 2 little girls. One of them was 13 and one was 11. And this dude in a pickup truck, just they were just walking down the road in the middle of the day, just farting around as little girls do. And this guy in a pickup truck just fucking opened fire on them and just shot them dead. You know what I mean? Only 100 yards or something from their grandparents' house or some shit like that. No reason. And it took them a while to find him, but it was just some fucking 20-odd-year-old dude. And then they found out that I think he had killed somebody else before. But yeah, the dude, and he tried to tell a yarn after they finally caught him. He tried to tell this story that, oh well, I thought they were monsters coming at me. He was trying to do an insanity defense. I'm shut the fuck up, get out of here. They didn't believe that. He got, I don't know, did he get the death penalty? I think he just got life in prison, with no parole. But it's just shit like that, what? Why? I don't know. I don't understand. I was talking about that dude last night on that show that just shot those 2 little girls, for no reason.
Yeah, for no reason. Just saw them and shot them up.
Just shot them. They were just walking on they weren't doing anything.
Yeah, cute little girls. A 13 one.
She was 13 and 11.
And an 11-year-old.
They were 13 and 11. They were best friends.
Yeah. They were just walking down a country road.
Yeah.
It's out in the country. He pulls up and fucking shoots at him with a 22 caliber pistol and then goes up there with a 9mm or 40 it was 9mm or 40.
It was a Glock.
No,
Glock 40.
Glock 40, is that what it was?
Yeah.
And then fucking dome checks him.
I remember.
Shoots him in the head. And he got away with it for years, but they eventually caught him.
Yeah, they caught him eventually, but it took like several years for him to
They had a cockamamie fucking explanation. One of the girls, her brother, was a drug dealer that sold drugs to the guy who killed her brother, who died of an OD. They thought maybe that might have been, but I don't think that's what it was.
Seems a little convoluted.
I don't think that's what it was.
No.
He was just some miserable fucking motherfucker. He's in his 20s. Just saw some pretty little girls and goes, those motherfucking, and he got fucking mad at it. You know what I mean? Fucking just hateful, you know, and just opened fired on him.
I can't imagine being at a point in your life where you would just do that.
Some people are so fucking miserable and hate themselves so much that they can't stand beauty. They're jealous of it. They have to destroy it. You know? If they saw a beautiful statue, they'd crush it. If they saw a fucking pretty puppy, they'd fucking crush its head. They do, you know, they got people that are like that.
Yeah, I know.
Because that's how bad they are. They're pieces of shit and they know it.
Well, like you said, it all kind of stems from self-hatred.
Yeah, self-hatred, yeah.
I think is what it is.
Yeah. Because them, in comparison to that, he's a monster compared to them. It makes him mad. It disgusts him about what a piece of shit he is compared to innocent people. So he kills them to try to erase.
Because that's going to make him less of a piece of shit, isn't it?
No, it's just
it doesn't make any sense.
Makes him feel better because now now things like that don't exist anymore that you can be compared to. It's like an assault on you. It makes you feel bad about yourself.
Yeah, I get it. CB said, you don't need to give child killers the death penalty. The other prisoners will do it for free.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, there's a guy who's got a life sentence.
Can't feel bad about it.
He's in one of the penitentiaries here, and I think he's killed 4 or 5 of them. He's got a life sentence, and if you're a child murderer or rapist, he kills you. And he kills you with a stick. He's got a cane that he has to walk with. He's an old guy. And every time he kills one, they'll put him in the hole for a couple years, but then he comes back out.
He's like, worth it.
And he goes, you know, I did a lot of wrong in my life. His quote was, I did a lot of wrong in my life, and this is the only way I can make up for them. Keep sending them to me, and I will keep killing them for you. That's what he said.
He's on a mission. I mean, hey.
Okay, bro. Yeah.
It's all right with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not the ideal way to go about things, but hey, you know.
Well, they're in hell.
Sure.
It doesn't matter. You can't punish him.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Life.
It's like he's like, hey, I'm already in here.
He's got life, yeah. And they're never going to give him the death sentence for that. They're just going to give him another life sentence.
Yeah, because most people would be like, man.
Yeah. They never get a jury verdict.
No.
They would just give him another life sentence. Well, he's already got 3 or 4. What does it matter?
Yeah.
They know.
Yeah, it's like, what are you going to do? Like, bring me back to life and make me be in here like another 40 years? I don't think so.
I saw a thing on it. And the prison the prison knows who he is. They like him. Yeah. They don't have anything against him. They try to keep other people safe. That's their job. But they can only do so much.
Yeah. And if somebody's like bound and determined.
Yeah. He says he's happy, man. Just keep sending them. He said, keep sending them to me, and I will keep killing them for you.
He's doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, doing the Lord's work in his mind.
Well, like I said, I can't be mad at it.
Yeah.
I can't be mad at it.
Well, they're child killers.
That's what I mean. Can't be mad at it. Like, I'm sure, I don't know what he did, and I'm sure that probably wasn't.
It wasn't anything like that. It was like a robbery thing. He killed somebody in a robbery or something. It wasn't anything.
That's not great either, but I'm just saying.
It was just more normal.
Right.
Type crime.
Yeah. American Military 100 said, reminds me of the Delphi murders. Oh, yeah. You ought to do an episode on that case. I thought we had, but if we haven't, then I wrote it down. I remember writing about it, but I don't know if we did a show about it. But yeah, we should probably do a show about that. I'll put that in the poll next time. Okay, so I think I only have like a couple more.
Okay.
Now this one's kind of weird. This dude, spoiler alert, is still alive, so he lived. But this was like a weird situation. Although, I'm going to say right out the gate, again, spoiler alert, I'm not sure if this is like some kind of weird story. I think it happened, but I'm not entirely sure if it's as mysterious as it appears. Okay? So this is the case of Stephen Kubacki. Kubacki, I think is how you pronounce his last name. So this happened in 1978 when he was 23 years old. So he was a student at a like a private Christian college near Lake Michigan. And he was an avid skier, adventurer kind of person. So in February of 1978, he went on a solo cross-country skiing trip. Now, it wasn't like he was only going to be gone for like a day or two. It wasn't like a big long vacation or nothing. So he went out on this trip, and then he didn't come back. Now, what they ended up finding, there's a couple different variations of like what they found. But apparently there were some snowmobilers in the area, and they saw a couple of skis like sticking out of the snow, and then like a backpack just like sitting there, like not like it had been like thrown off or anything, but just like it had been set down. And then there was like a line of footprints leading up to a lake, but the lake was frozen over and it wasn't broken or anything like that. But then the footprints like disappeared, like there were no more footprints. So it looked like somebody walked up to the lake and presumably fell in, but they didn't fall in because it was frozen and
how long had it been
the
frozen?
ice wasn't broken.
It had been frozen for a long time?
Yeah. So
they walked out on the ice and didn't leave prints behind.
I guess. So they thought that was like pretty weird. So the dude Stephen Kabacki was reported missing, obviously. And he had been cross-country skiing in this area before. And he'd been climbing mountains in Europe and all this other kind of shit. So it wasn't like all that weird. So he's missing for more than a year. Like a year and 3 months, 4 months, something like that. And then in May of 1979, he claims that he woke up in a field in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, which was 700 miles from where he had disappeared, and he could not remember how he had gotten there.
How much later? How long later? How long after?
14 and a half months.
He's lying. Okay, here's the story.
He said that, like, he woke up and he didn't realize, like, he was just kind of like, how the fuck did I get here? But he didn't realize that a year and several months had passed until he got into a town and found, like, a newspaper and saw the date on it. Now, he had an aunt that lived about 20 miles away from there, so he went to her house and, like, called for help from there.
What's the chances of that?
And, well, yeah, see, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Now, he says that after he woke up and didn't remember anything that happened, he said that the clothes he was wearing were not his, or he didn't recognize them. He had a backpack with him that had, like, maps and hitchhiking signs in it and shit like that, that suggested that he'd been traveling around, like, to different states like California, Utah, shit like that. He said he also had new glasses, new sneakers, $40 in cash, a t-shirt from a marathon in Wisconsin. And he apparently said this, like, thought that he had done all this stuff and, like, didn't remember it. You know what I mean? He said that the last thing he remembered was being in the snow around Lake Michigan, like, being really cold and afraid something bad was going to happen. Like, he thought he was lost. And that was the last thing he remembered before waking up in this field, like, more than a year later.
Okay.
So
they're calling bullshit on this, right?
I'm not really sure. Like, I read a couple articles about it, and they're like, I'm not entirely sure I buy this story. Like, I'm not entirely sure.
Oh.
He seemed to think it was some kind of blackout, and he was, like, doing stuff without being aware of it, which is a thing that happens. It's very rare, like some weird kinds of amnesia and stuff. So it's not impossible. It just seems a little odd.
So
it seems like an odd story.
So has anybody done an investigation on it?
Well, like I said, I was just reading about this shit,
Yeah.
and he was saying that it's like, well, I didn't really have any reason to, like, take off from my life. I had, like, all this, stuff going on. I had, like, a job lined up and all this other kind of shit. But the thing about, like, they thought he was dead, like, for a long time. Like, they even thought for a little while that he might have been, like, that John Wayne Gacy had killed him. Like, that maybe he was one of the unidentified.
How old was he?
He was 23 at the time.
Okay.
This was back in the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah, John Wayne would have killed somebody at 23, probably.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So,
Yeah.
like, they didn't know, like, because he was missing for, like, more than a year. So, he was one of the dudes that they, because a lot of the victims were not identified, you know what I mean? So, he was one of the dudes that they compared his dental records because they weren't sure where he was. So, I will say that Stephen Kubacki, he's still alive, and he lives in the Pacific Northwest. He's a psychologist nowadays. And he has steadfastly refused to talk about his disappearance.
Yeah.
Now, I
think it's a cover story.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Here's the thing. So it kind of took off. Like, I saw it in, like, regular newspapers and stuff. And then it kind of took off, like, in the sort of mysterious internet, like, you know, that little subset of the internet that's all like, ooh, creepy unsolved mysteries, like, what happened to this guy, like, all this time. Like, and the thing about it too that a lot of people were picking up on in the paranormal community was the area that he disappeared from is known as the Lake Michigan Triangle. Have we talked about that in this show?
No.
Because I feel like, you know how the Bermuda Triangle, which is also bullshit?
Yeah.
But just from a statistical standpoint.
Yeah.
The Lake Michigan Triangle, it's kind of a similar thing where there's been, like, all these unexplained disappearances and plane crashes and all this other kind of stuff, reportedly, like, in this area.
Well, there's a lot of traffic.
That's where he disappeared from. Yeah. So a lot of people have tried to put, like, that kind of weird, like, paranormal spin on it. Like, he got sucked into an alternate dimension or some other kind of thing.
Back in the olden days, or not really olden days, but back into the fucking 80s, before Detroit's car industry basically got outsourced and destroyed, the Great Lakes area around Michigan and everything, it goes up into Canada with fucking shit ton of traffic. Cargo ships bringing steel, all kinds of crap, shit to make cars was going down there all the time. And then there was a lot of aircraft flying across it too, because there's fucking harbors and ports all the way around that damn Great Lakes area. The Great Lakes is huge, man. It's like a small ocean.
Yeah, they're massive.
You're out there, you think it's an ocean. Huge waves. And it's fresh water, though. If I remember correctly, I think it's fresh water. And it's got sturgeon and shit like that in it, I think. Isn't it fresh water?
As far as I know.
I think it is fresh water. Yeah, it's huge. And it's cold. And a lot of fucking ships have been lost out there. One of them, the fucking song was written about it because something about the fucking Edmund Fitzgerald.
Oh, the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Yeah, wreck of the Edmund.
Gordon Lightfoot.
Yeah.
I love that song.
And they're fucking... Warren Zevon did a cover of it. I like better, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good song.
Yeah. I think it's Warren Zevon, the version I listened to. Yeah.
I thought Gordon Lightfoot was the original, but...
I think Warren Zevon might be the original. I don't know.
Well, why don't you look it up?
I know it from that one.
Why don't you look it up?
Yeah, it's a good song. That one and Roland the Headless Thompson Gunner. That's another one.
That's a good one also.
Yeah. About them fucking African mercenaries. Got a dude from Norway. He was a mercenary.
I used to love all them fucking songs like that.
Yeah, the drinking songs.
Well, I love all the, like, creepy songs about, like, creepy mysteries and shit like that. That's, like, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, about fucking shipwrecks and all that. That's pretty cool. So here's the thing, though.
Yeah, by Gordon Lightfoot.
I told you.
I guess that was the original.
I know.
Okay.
I know it was the original. I didn't want to argue because I knew you were wrong, but you know what I mean? I was like, okay, just look it up. All right, so one of the things, though, like, this sounds like a cool story. Like, he just walked to the edge of, like, a frozen lake and then...
Oh, wait a minute. No, maybe that's just Gordon Lightfoot. I guess maybe Warren Zevon didn't do a cover of that.
Okay, well then.
Yeah.
So you're even more wrong.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So one of the things about this story, it's a cool story. I'm not, cool story, bro. But one of the things that made me doubt this one, I still wanted to kind of cover it because I thought it was just kind of a neat story. But one of the things that I found while I was looking around was that this dude has a website. He's a PhD now, by the way, like I said, because he's a psychologist. And he is writing a book about what really happened. And it says currently approaching publishers on it, so I don't imagine that it's published yet. But I don't know. Here's the thing. if it was some kind of scam, you'd think that he would have come out with it, like talked about it at the time. But you know what I mean? Because it happened in the 70s. And apparently there was news coverage of it in the 70s of him going missing. So it's not like he just made that up. So you'd think if like he really wanted to trade in on it or make money off of it, that he would have cashed in on it a long time ago. Like, especially because the late 70s, man, they were all about that fucking paranormal shit. Like, you would have made... look how much money the fucking Amityville Horror made for this thing.
Look at what Tammy said happened to him.
Where? Oh, aliens in Boy Scout uniforms kidnapped him.
And then,
Now,
look,
they got done pegging him after a year and brought him back. And then he didn't want to talk about it. I don't even want to talk about it, you guys. It was super traumatic.
I think dude just became a bum for a while, and they didn't want to explain to anybody why he became a bum.
Well, now listen to this. So I went to his website.
Yeah.
That says currently approaching publishers. This book that he's writing, where he's like, I'm finally going to talk about it. Like after all this time, like after 45 years. And this is what it says. I wrote it down. The truth, it turns out, is even more fascinating, and Kubacki knows exactly what happened during that lost time. So it's like, so it wasn't lost time. He admits that he knows exactly what happened.
Yeah.
After almost 45 years of silence, Stephen Kubacki is ready to reveal where he went after he disappeared. His experience is much stranger and also much more believable than anyone suspects.
Yeah, UFO cults and pagan.
The story involves...
UFO cults and
well,
pagan.
close.
Okay.
The story involves a revolutionary organization, an idealistic terrorist in training named Nathan T. Stanfield, spiritual experiences with hallucinogenic drugs and alternate realities, the French Foreign Legion, and a young man's struggle to find meaning during a turbulent time. Which somehow sounds a lot less fun than getting pegged by big feet in Boy Scout uniforms.
I think he's just gonna give you another tale.
Yeah.
French Foreign Legion, man, fucking, it's well documented what they're doing. They don't have anything to do with that.
That's what I mean. I kind of feel like maybe people would like it better. If you're going to come out with a book about it, I would come up with some wild shit, because people would probably like that a lot better. If you just came out and said, oh, all along, I actually knew what happened, and I just went and hung out with hippies and did a lot of drugs, everybody's like, boring. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to do that, like, at least come out with a book that said you got abducted by aliens or some shit. Come on. Don't you know anything? No, I'm just kidding. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just saying. It just doesn't sound as exciting as the mystery. I think you should leave the mystery as it is so people can fill in their own blanks. You know? Just getting bored with your life and wandering off and doing drugs with people from the French Foreign Legion, that sounds kind of lame.
The Legion doesn't put up with that kind of shit. That's a tight unit. They're very
and like you said, that could very well be a fucking story as well.
Yeah, it's just another story. It's actually
kind of for all we know, he might have just wandered off and been a fry cook at a fucking Waffle House somewhere for a year and a half and then decided to come back. So, it could be that. I don't really know. But yeah, I just thought I would include that because I just thought that was kind of a funny story. So, along similar lines, here's this other weird fucking story. So this is a dude, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name right, but it's Danny Philippidis, I think is how you pronounce his last name. I'm sorry if that's wrong. So he was from Toronto, and he went on a ski trip in New York State on Whiteface Mountain. And this was recent. This was February of 2018. And it wasn't just him. He went with like a bunch of his he was a firefighter, and he went with a bunch of his other firefighters. You know what I mean? Now, so all of them are going up this mountain or whatever. Like I said, it's a ski trip. And he's like, oh, you guys, I left my phone in my car. So he just left to go back to his car just to grab his phone real quick. And they were all going to wait for him. And he didn't come back. Like, he disappeared.
How far away was the car?
I don't know, but not far. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't far. So they don't know what happened to him, like, when he went back down to get the car. Now, however, he was 48 years old, by the way, if I didn't mention that.
So he wasn't a sexual target?
No. Well,
he wasn't abducted by a bunch of fucking butt horkers?
Butt horkers.
Yeah, they hork on your ass. Yeah. Pegging you people.
So he goes missing. And obviously they, call out the fucking cavalry. They do like a huge manhunt, and all these volunteers and shit like that. And they can't find him anywhere. What ended up happening, though, 6 days later, he woke up in Sacramento, California, all the way across the country from where he'd been in New York State. And he woke up in Sacramento, still with his ski clothes on, and he had no idea what had happened in the ensuing 6 days. Now, this guy, I actually kind of believe, because this was recent, so they actually have documentation of this. And they're not entirely sure, like, they don't know if he got injured and he got some kind of amnesia, or if he got, again, like, abducted by aliens or something like that.
He didn't leave in his car, did he?
No.
So he left in somebody else's car.
All they know, okay, so this is all they know. He doesn't really remember much of anything. But he said that it's possible that he could have just, like, fallen and hit his head or something, like, got, like, some kind of concussion or head injury or something like that.
That's unlikely,
Well,
man.
wait a minute. Well, wait. I'm not done yet. And then what they think happened was that he was kind of injured and he flagged down a truck to get a ride off the mountain. He says the next thing that he remembered was the driver of the truck telling him that he was in Utah, which was like, which is almost all the way across the country, like, in case you were keeping score. Now, this truck driver took him to Sacramento, and he was still in the same clothes, like this was several days later. And he didn't have any ID on him except he had one credit card that had his name on it. Now, the driver lets him off in Sacramento. He got somehow a new phone, and some reports said he also got a haircut, because they said he had a haircut, but he didn't really remember clearly, like, getting one. He got a new phone, but it took him like a day or two to remember what his wife's phone number was. And then he called her, and he said someone else answered. I guess it was one of his wife's friends, because he was missing and everyone was freaking out. So, like, all her friends were over at the house and they were just like, where the fuck is he? And, like, so he was, like, out looking for him. So he called. Now, the thing about it is that they're trying to find the truck driver that gave him the ride, because obviously he could solve a lot of the mystery, because presumably he was the one that drove him across the country. Maybe. They don't know if it was the same truck driver the whole time. But he has never come forward.
It's more likely that it's his girlfriend that picked him up there.
Perhaps.
His girlfriend took him.
So, I mean, well, they're saying, okay, so the cops found him. The cops found him at the Sacramento airport, and he was just, like, kind of wandering around.
Yeah.
And he said he didn't really remember who he was, and he didn't really remember how he got there. He said he remembered a truck driver dropped him off, but he didn't really know.
Did they check that airport to see if he flew into that airport?
As far as I know, he did. No.
Back in those days, I don't even think he needed ID.
It's 2018.
Oh, 2018.
Yeah,
okay,
I told you it was 2018.
I was still thinking it was fucking
No,
80s.
that was the last case.
Yeah, you can't fly without an ID.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's like, if that had happened, then that would have come out.
Unless he threw his ID away after he arrived. But
Maybe,
they would have been records. There probably would have been records that he flew into there. I'm sure they would have checked.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. So, like I said, this is 2018. This wasn't back in 1978.
Yeah, right.
So it's like it's harder to, like, make shit up, like, at least in this context. So I'm sure they checked all of those angles, and he apparently said that he didn't really remember, like, how he had got there. He kind of remembered the truck driver dropping him off, but he didn't really know, like, the circumstances that he got to this fucking chick.
He either had some kind of blackout, weird shit like you said, or he had 6-day vacation with his girlfriend and a good cover story and enough money.
Possibly. Now Tom's like, ooh, that's a good idea. I'm gonna come up with that kind of.
Girlfriend comes pick you up, leave your car behind.
6 days later, man, I don't remember, baby. I don't remember anything.
You're on the other side of the planet. So
I don't remember
how this happened.
I don't know how this happened. That is also a possibility, because dudes are the worst.
A dude would think of that,
and they would come up with this big elaborate fucking story. Like, I'll just say I got amnesia.
Yeah, I don't know how I happened.
I don't remember how I got all the way across the country. Who is this girl? I have a wife. Get away from me. You know what I mean? Yeah, it'd be like that.
Yeah, it's just the guy in me thinks that. That was some shit like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because that's more likely.
And I'm not saying that it's like amnesia doesn't happen. It does. But I'm just saying that he did have head injuries.
He had head injuries?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
As far as I know, they did MRIs and stuff, and it did look like he had some head injuries. So maybe at some point, like when he was going back down to get his phone, like he fell,
busted his head on something.
And busted his head, and like didn't really remember what was going on.
Yeah.
And then kind of his just body took over.
Maybe.
Like I said, it's a possibility, but like you said, it could be that he was just like wanting a vacation.
Yeah.
From the wife.
Yeah.
And wanted to come up
and
with
the girlfriend helped him and shit.
Which, can you imagine, like, coming up with a fucking elaborate story like that?
They got women like that. Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
I mean, coming up with a whole elaborate story like that. We'll just say that I got amnesia, and this trucker, like, drove me all the way across the country, and...
I saw Bigfoot.
And I saw Bigfoot, they should have added that. So, we'll see, I don't know if that happened. Like, the dude could have, for real, got amnesia, but, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, this guy, I don't know. Like, the first guy, like, the last guy, I'm pretty sure that dude just made that up.
Yeah.
Or it wasn't as interesting as he made it seem. This guy, I'm not really sure. Like you said, there is a possibility that he just kind of fucking did that shit. So now I know, like, if Tom comes up with some stupid story like that, like, I'll know exactly what's going on.
That's funny.
That you don't, this shit happened and you don't remember. I'm just like,
Jen, what's the chances of me fucking disappearing for fucking 6 days? And then showing up
not likely.
in another fucking country or something, you know? I'm showing up, I'm in Thailand. I don't know what happened. I don't even know how I got here.
I was kidnapped.
I don't know who this Mei Ling chick is. I don't know who the fuck she is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, I banged her, though. She was right there.
Yeah, she says that's my baby. I want a DNA test.
You are the father.
Yeah.
You gotta pay child
Morpovich. Tom, you are the father.
Yeah.
Oh,
you did it.
All the black dudes behind me laughing. They got set free.
And you're on the hook for child support.
I'm like, oh, and they're going, damn, dude.
Yeah. Was it all worth it, Tom?
It didn't happen, Jen. This is, see how she is. It's just a story.
Was it all worth it? Now you have to pay child support to some chick in Thailand.
Yeah, Desert says I wake up in a 2-star Thai hotel somewhere. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's like, wait, do I still have my kidneys? Oh
Yeah.
shit, one of my kidneys is gone. That might happen too. Tom and the Ladyboys would be a great band name. It would actually. Now I'm gonna tell him we need to start a band called that. Yeah, maybe the trucker had his way with him. That's another possibility. That's another possibility. Because, yes, I'm not disparaging all truckers everywhere, even though some of them were serial killers. But, you know, he could have been like, what, you don't remember anything? You don't remember who you are? I sense possibilities. You know what I mean? You never know. There's some fucked up people out there. Just saying. Just saying. But yeah. Yeah, Brandis is... ASMR says, I haven't seen anything about the book yet. Yeah, me neither. Like, the website still says that they're still contacting publishers. So, like I said, I haven't read the book. I don't know. Just from the blurb, as much as this mystery has been built up on the internet about, and this is not this guy. This is Steven, the Kubacki guy. I kind of feel like anything that he writes is going to be a disappointment, you know? Because it's not going to... Either go paranormal or go home. Because that's what people want. You know? They don't... Like I said, they don't want to just hear about some dude, like, wandering off in a hippie bus and, like, doing fucking ayahuasca or whatever. You know? Like, abducted by aliens or get the fuck out. No one's going to read that. Just saying. High Desert said Tom and the Ladyboys would be a good band name.
What's that?
Tom and the Ladyboys would be a good band name.
I had like 5 of them with me.
Would be a good band name.
Yeah, I'm the front man.
Get them all dancing in the back like that.
Like
that Robert Palmer.
Like that Robert Palmer song. That's exactly what I was thinking.
I knew you were thinking that.
Yeah, just have them back there doing that shit.
Because you thought the
fake guitars and shit.
They all got their hair slicked back in the
Fucking right. Prettier than any fucking biological girl.
high heel shoes
just
and
pretty
that.
as shit, yeah.
shit like that. That's pretty funny. All right, so let's talk about. I think there's only a couple more like cases.
All right.
Now this one's a little more normal. This one's a little more normal, and then the last one is like kind of weird again. So this is a case of Jim McGrogan. So he was 39 years old, and he was actually a doctor. He was an emergency room physician, Jim McGrogan. Now this happened in 2004, and he was on a trip in Vail in Colorado. Now, what happened with this? Oh, okay, so this was March 2004. So it's about 8:30 in the morning. Now, he wasn't going hiking alone. He had three of his friends with him. And they were going on this 9-mile hike to this thing called the, I think it's called the Iceman Hut. It's just kind of like this hike up this mountain, and it's like there's all these huts where like campers like, take shelter and shit like that. So they were hiking up to that. And it was kind of a challenging trek. That's why like a lot of hikers wanted to do it. So it's March, so there's still like a lot of snow at this elevation. And some of the snow was like quite deep, although the trails were all pretty like well packed down and shit like that. Now going up to this hut, there are two main trails. One of them is called the Spraddle Creek Trail, and one of them is called the Red Sandstone Creek Trail. They're not really sure which trail the group took, but it was one of the main ones for sure. But they were both very like easily seen. They had signs, they were marked, everything like that. So it wasn't like wilderness really. Now the hut was actually only about 4 miles from where the starting point was, and it was right near an interstate, but that was like as the crow flies. Like the hike itself was like 9 miles, and it was like fairly rugged terrain. It was like kind of steep, and like it was kind of wooded and everything like that. So they so Jim and his companions, they were very seasoned hikers. They had all the right equipment. Like Jim had his cell phone with backup batteries. He had a medical kit. He had a sleeping bag. He had a GPS. He had an avalanche beacon. He had clothes. He had a whole thing full of food, a whole thing full of water, everything like that. So he had everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't miss a trick. So it's about 10 in the morning, and they were still about 5 miles. They had gone about 4 miles, and they were still about 5 miles from the hut. Now, the group stops to rest. Now, according to his friends, Jim got kind of annoyed because he didn't want to stop yet because he wanted to, like, keep going. So all of his friends were like, well, whatever, dude, but we're just, like, staying here. So he's like, well, you know what? I'm just going to go on ahead, and you guys can just catch up to me because I don't want to rest. So he just took off on his own. And like I said, it was a very clearly marked trail. They were going to a specific place. Everybody knew where it was. All this other kind of shit. So he goes off on his own. And after that, he, not surprisingly, given the topic of this show, completely disappeared. And was never seen alive again. Now, they kind of, they waited, like they went up the trail and they kept thinking they were going to run into him, and they never did. And then they got to the hut and he wasn't there. And they were like, what the fuck, where did he go? Like, you know what I mean? There's like nowhere else to go really, unless you like went off the trail, which why would he do that? So they weren't really sure what had happened. So it's about 5:30 in the afternoon now. And at this point, they kind of like alert the authorities, you know? Because they're like, look, he just went on ahead a little bit and then like he just disappeared. We don't know where he fucking went to. So they started a whole rescue operation. Now, they weren't too worried about him because he had all his shit with him, right? He had a GPS, he had a beacon, he had all that other kind of stuff. He also had, he had rented a bunch of stuff. They actually had a list because he had rented a bunch of stuff from a shop. And one of the things that he had, I didn't even know they made this, but this is pretty cool. But it's like a snowboard, but it snaps in half to be skis. You know what I mean? So it's skis and a snowboard at the same time. You can use it for both things. And he's like, and he also had skins that would go over the skis, like, so you could go, like, uphill without sliding back down. Like, he had that, too. Like, so he had all the shit. And he had the boots that went with the board and everything. Now, they did know that his cell phone had pinged, like, about 10:30 that morning. And that was the last time. They don't know if he was trying to call them or something like that. But they did. But after that, there was no more... they couldn't find any more signal from his phone. Like, either it went dead or whatever. So they searched for him for the next 3 days. Like I said, on foot. They had snowmobiles, helicopters, the whole fucking deal. They had to call off the search because of bad weather on March 18th. And then, like, it goes into 5 days, and they still didn't find him. Now, they finally found him after 20 days. And then he was just kind of found by chance, like a bunch of skiers that had actually gone off the trail. And he was about 4.5 miles from the trail. They found him on April 3rd, 2014, near Booth Falls.
Alive or dead?
Dead.
Okay.
They found him dead. Now, okay. The thing about this case is that they're pretty sure they know how he died. He fell because they're like, his injuries were consistent with a fall. He probably fell like over a frozen waterfall because that was like in the area. The weird thing about it is that they're not sure how he got to the area where he got to. Another thing too was that he had his helmet on, like he had a helmet too. He didn't have a coat on. He didn't have his boots on. He didn't have any gloves on. In his backpack, they found his cell phone, which seemed to have normal Wi-Fi reception. They also found his GPS, which was in complete fine working order. And they couldn't figure out, because the place where he was found, like, there's kind of a long thing, like I said, Lost Lore did a thing about why it was so weird, like why they found him in the spot where they found him. Because they're like, look, the trail that he was on was very clearly marked. They were going to a specific place. He was just going ahead, like, of his 3 friends, and they were going to catch up with him, right? There's absolutely no reason that he would have gone off trail. They can't think of any reason why he would have gone off trail, like, for any reason, like, when he was by himself. And it's like, they didn't really find any tracks or anything like that. I mean, there had been, like, some snowfall and stuff, so that could have been that, too. But it's like, he ends up, like, way far away, and they're like, if he was lost, he had a GPS. It was working. He had a cell phone. It was working. Like, they couldn't figure out, and it's like, even...
Maybe he couldn't walk uphill
even
for
if
some reason.
Yeah, even if he was lost, they're like, you could see the lights of Vale, like, from the mountain. Like, he would be able to...
How long had he been dead?
I don't know. They said they found him 20 days later, but I'm presuming he died the same day, but I'm not really sure because he fell. You know what I mean?
So he died in the fall?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They know that he fell.
What?
They just can't figure out...
Maybe he just slid all the way down.
They just can't figure out why he was there. Like, there was no reason for him to be in the area where he fell because it was way, way, way off the trail. And it's like, they couldn't figure out why he'd gone off the trail in the first place or why he was that far away.
I don't know. I'd have to see the...
And the thing, and like I said,
see a map.
Had he gotten lost, which was unlikely because he had been to that area before, like, he still had his GPS. It was still working. Even after the fall, it was still working.
He must have died pretty quickly.
I mean, it must have been.
Yeah, so he didn't have time to call anybody. He got killed, and then his body ended up down
Well,
there.
now, they thought that he called his friends, because there was a cell phone. It seemed like he tried to call his friends, like, about half an hour after he left them. They don't know why. And the call wasn't answered, so they're not really sure, like, what that was about. So it could have been that it's like, hey, I wandered off and I'm lost, and he was trying to call. But it's just like, they were like, even if that had been the case, why didn't he just use his GPS and get back to the thing? Or why didn't it, like, when it got dark, he would have been able to see the lights of Vale and known where he was? You know what I mean? Because he would have known, like, where the town was.
He died quickly. He somehow fell down the hill.
Well, no, I know
slid
that.
Down the hill and got.
But what they're saying is, how did he end up that far off of the, like, for him to even fall at that place? Like, everybody knows that he died in a fall. That's not that's not a mystery. The mystery is, how did he end up so far off the trail?
Did he slide all the way down?
I don't know. There's written.
It was snow everywhere, right?
No, not that anybody ever said. I don't think that's what would have happened.
Snow there. Okay.
They think that he fell, like, over. What I could determine was that he fell over, like, a frozen waterfall. But like I said, the mystery is why he was way the fuck over there in the first place. There was no reason for him to be in that area. Like, it was way, way, way off course.
He got lost.
And he would have known that he was off course. And like I said, he had all his equipment. If he knew he was lost, why didn't he just use his GPS to get back to the trail?
He was an experienced dude, huh?
Yeah. That's what they were saying. That's what's mysterious about this one.
He must have had a head injury.
Is that...
Maybe he had a head injury.
It's not a mystery how he died. They just can't figure out, like, why the fuck he was way the fuck over there.
Maybe he got a head injury first and then walked all the way down there and fell. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. And like I said, when they found him...
Maybe something
when they found him, he didn't have his boots on either, which they thought was very weird because they're like, the hike, where he ended up, they said it was only 4.5 miles as the crow flies, but on the trail it was like 13 miles. And it's like, they're like, he couldn't have hiked all that way with no boots on.
They never found the boots, huh?
No.
Maybe somebody walked by and saw him and stole his boots. Because he was dead. They're like, oh, those are good boots.
I mean, they're like, the gloves, he didn't have gloves on either, or his coat. The coat was in his backpack.
But he was outside, though. You don't take your boots off outside and all that.
Well, that's what I mean. That's why they can't figure out where the boots are. Like, he didn't have a coat on. The coat was in his backpack.
Unless he had bad blisters on his feet.
I don't really know. But like I said, how did he end up...
His boots would have been right there next to him.
That's what I mean. How did he end up so fucking far away from where he was supposed to be when he had a GPS that was working?
Interdimensional Bigfoot.
That's what I'm saying. Like I said, there's no mystery about how he died. He fell. They know that he fell.
Yeah.
They just can't figure out how he ended up...
How he got over there. Yeah.
At that spot. Like, there's no reason for him to have been over there.
He thought there was a reason. He went down there for some reason.
So, in the more paranormal areas of the internet, not necessarily paranormal, but they're just saying, well, maybe somebody was chasing him. Maybe something was chasing him.
Yeah.
And that's why he ended up... Because there have been a couple of other cases. There was this one girl, what was her name? Eloise something. And she was 22, and she got lost for a little while in the woods. They found her. She was alive. But she said later that she had been chased by men. Like, which, like I said, that's not great. They didn't believe her. But I was like, well, that's not that crazy. I mean, that could have happened. But, and she was like, actually, when people came to rescue her, she was scared of them. Because she said she'd been running away from these dudes, like, for, I think it was like 5 or 6 days or something. And then they found her. But, so because of cases like that, and because of other cases where very experienced hikers have ended up in weird-ass places where they shouldn't have been, like because they knew where they were going and there was no reason for them to go off trail or anything like that. So there's kind of a subset of these cases where people are saying, oh, well, maybe they were chased by someone or something. Which, like I said, not impossible. I don't know how likely it is. Like I said, it does seem weird that this dude... I mean, I don't know how long they were sitting there waiting, like, then they were going to catch up with him, but he was just going on the trail. It was like a pretty straightforward trail, and it was like very well marked. I believe they'd done it before, and they were all going to go up to the cabin thing, and they just couldn't figure out like why he'd gone off trail or what the reason for that would have been, and how he ended up so far away from where he was supposed to be.
Is that the last case?
No, this last one. Okay, now this one is weird. Now this one, I'm gonna say outright.
All right.
I think this one is bullshit.
Okay.
But I mean, you'll see why in a second. But this one did turn up in the Missing 411 books, and a lot of people talk about this one as being like the creepiest one. But to me, this just seems like a creepypasta that somebody like told David Paulides like it was a real Paulides, like it was a real story. And the thing that makes me think that is that they don't know the people's actual names, so you can't actually like go corroborate it. Like, because most of the stories in there like are actual stories. Like, you can find news stories about it. Because I found news stories about all this stuff This case, not so much because the people are not named. But I was like, so many people talk about this one, like on Reddit and stuff. I was just like, okay, well, I have to mention this one, even though I think it's completely made up. So this supposedly happened in 2010. So this is a 3-year-old boy. And like I said, he's not named in the story. So I don't know. We'll just give him a name. We'll just call him, I don't know, Petey. Petey the 3-year-old. So he's camping with his family on Mount Shasta, which is in California.
Yeah.
They're not from the U.S.
Used to have soda called Shasta. They had a
did,
picture of
yeah.
Mount
Do
Shasta.
they still make that?
I don't know. Probably do.
Oh.
White Rock and Shasta.
I know White Rock is on
Yeah.
it, but
Haven't seen that in a while.
But yeah. So they go and set up a camp on this creek, like the banks of a creek. And, it was real pretty and there was good fishing and all this other kind of stuff. So the parents are fishing or doing whatever, and the kid, who's 3, is kind of just playing, like, right by them. It's about 6 o'clock in the evening. And then all of a sudden, the parents turn around, and the kid is gone. According to the dad, it's like, he was there and then he wasn't there. Like, he just disappeared into thin air. So obviously the parents look everywhere for this kid, and they're like, look, he was 3. Like, how far could he fucking go? You know what I mean? So they're just, like, looking everywhere, and there's just, like, no fucking sign of him. And they're calling him, and he doesn't make any noise or anything. So at this point, the dad is, like, freaking out, and he calls the cops and park rangers and everything. So they all come and search the entire area for several hours. Like, 5 hours, they said it was. And in this time period, like, it had gotten dark and all this other kind of shit. And they're, like, kind of giving up hope. They're like, okay, well, we're not going to find this kid now. But then, a very strange thing happened. Suddenly, they found little Petey alive and well. And he was just curled up on this little patch of grass or whatever. Now, they thought this was kind of weird because they had searched this area multiple times. And the kid had not been there before. And there he was suddenly. And he found him. He was okay. So they were like, okay, well, thank goodness. So they pick him up and take him home. Now, nothing weird happened at first. The parents were just like, okay, whatever. They were just glad they found the kid alive, right? So that's fine. Now, 3 weeks later, though, little Petey was staying with his grandma at his grandma's house. Now, the little kid called his grandma Cappy. Like, her name was Kathy, but he called her Cappy, because I guess he couldn't say it. Now, the grandma got kind of weirded out, because little Petey says to her, I don't like the other Grandma Cappy as much as I like you. And Grandma's like, the fuck are you talking about? I'm sure she didn't say it like that.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about, little Petey? Because he didn't have another grandma that was named Cappy, obviously. So she's like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, you remember when I, went missing, like, on Mount Shasta? It's like, I was lost in the woods, and then somebody grabbed me, and it looked just like his grandma, Cappy. But it was the other Cappy. That's what he said. Said had the same face and the same hair, like it looked just like her. And this person evidently took him to a cave, and the cave was filled with spiders.
Okay.
And then he said that this other grandma, that reminds me of like the other mother from Coraline. That's kind of what I was thinking when I was reading this. So he said that the other grandma like gave him a medical examination, which I was like, oh, red flag. And then he said that other grandma said to him that he was not from Earth, but that his mom didn't know that. Right?
Okay.
So another thing that little Petey said.
So what they're saying is he's from another dimension?
That's what he's saying that the other grandma told him. That he was an alien or something.
Okay.
And then he said that there was like kind of a light in the cave, and that the other grandma kind of looked like you could kind of see through her skin, and she looked like a robot. like a cyborg or something. And he said then the woman took him to the trail and left him there. Like, almost like she, like, left him somewhere where he'd be found. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, remember they'd search him.
Casey Lee said this story's famous off of Art Bell.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, so I had to talk about this one, even though I think it's completely made up. But I was like, well, I have to do the robot grandma story because everybody mentions, whenever you search missing 411, like, especially on Reddit or something, like, robot grandma always comes up because everybody loves this fucking story. So he thinks that it's like like I said, it reminds me of Coraline, like Other Mother, with the button eyes. But yeah, so
with the butt knife.
No, button eyes.
Oh, button eyes.
You never saw Coraline or read Coraline?
No, I don't know what that is.
By Neil Gaiman. Well, it was a book, and then they made like a movie out of it.
No, I didn't see it.
Yeah, it was like a little girl, and she finds like another dimension that has like her parents in her house and everything, but like slightly different.
Okay.
But like her other mother has button eyes, like everybody has buttons sewn into their eye sockets.
Maybe that's what inspired this.
I'm kind of thinking that, yeah, because that's a very, very famous book. That's a very, very famous story. So yeah, so robot grandma. So yeah, so this apparently robot grandma like left him on the trail, like where he could be found. Now Kathy, the real grandma, the non-robot grandma, she initially said that she would have thought that this was just some kid like making shit up, as kids do. Except she says, you know, a year ago, me and my friend were out camping in the same area, and like the same area that he disappeared from. And she said that while they were camping, one morning she woke up and she was laying face down on the ground outside of her tent. And she didn't have any memory of how she got there. And she said that on the back of her head, there was a little wound that she thought was a spider bite. And then she said that her friend was really sick and that he had a weird bite on the back of his head too. And that then they both said that they had woken up in the middle of the night and they saw like something with red eyes like out in the woods. You know what I mean? Like staring at them.
Yeah.
Now at first they just thought it was a deer or some other animal or something like that. But like after she heard this kid's story, she thought maybe it was some kind of like whatever it was that had taken the kid. Shelob, the spider, I guess. I don't really know. But yeah, so like I said, apparently the family are whoever the fuck they are, because they're not really named.
If they're not named, then it's not a real
That's
story.
what I'm saying. But like I said, because this story is so famous, I had to mention this one because it's a great story, but also it was in the Missing 411 books. But the fact that he did so much diligent research, and like I said, all of the stories that I talked about, and most of the other stories, because I researched a bunch of stories because I was trying to pick, you know, the best ones, or the ones that I thought were the most interesting. And all of them have actual news stories and actual shit about them. This one, because there are no names, this one sounds like a creepypasta to me.
Yeah.
And I think that probably the same thing happened, that like somebody told him this story and he's like, well, I can't check it because I don't know any of their names, but that's a good story. I'm going to put that in the fucking book anyway.
It kind of reminds me of another one that I don't think is real.
Which is?
Over the years, I used to have a book called, I think it was called Mysteries of the Unexplained or something like that. I think that's what it might have been called. And it was a bunch of mysteries that were in there. And the sources were newspapers from all around the world and reports. And at the time that I read it, man, I thought it was very compelling. But, you know, I was in my 20s when I read it, and there was pre-internet. You couldn't check anything, you know. And one of the stories in there, we did a show on it. It was Freudian fucking Fortean archaeology. Yeah. Where they were building a train tunnel and it opened up into a big cavern and a fucking big pterodactyl flew out of there. It looked like a stalactite, and it fucking unfloated its wings and it flew out, and people were chasing it, and as soon as it got out in the sunlight, it hit the ground, it fucking started tremoring, and then it fell into dust mostly. but they had most of it. And they said that shit was real back in the 1800s. It's not real, though.
No.
They made those kind of stories up all the time in newspapers.
Yeah, because it's a good story.
It's a good story. And I guess people... You talk about fake news today, it was even worse in the 1800s.
Well, there was
They just made up...
There was like no expectation
of anything being true.
No.
It was just the only media they had was the town newspaper, and it was your movies, it was news, movies, and fucking just it was everything.
Well,
social
I should
media.
note too
That was your social media.
Because that was the only media. There were several, like any decent sized city would have several competing newspapers, so they were always trying to like
outlie each other.
The other one to like sell more copies. Like it was kind of a game to them. So it's like if they could come up with crazier, more salacious shit. That's why, you know, like if you see like the papers that came out, like the, you know, when the Jack the Ripper murders and all that kind of stuff, they were trying to like, they didn't have photography back then, obviously, but it's just like they had to, so it's like who can make the most fucked up looking drawings, or, you know, who can come up with the craziest theory about this, or whatever. They were trying to get away with whatever they could get away with because they were trying to sell papers more than the other competing
Well, that
ones.
last story that she told reminded me of one of the stories that was in that book.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
And the story was about taking place, I believe, in the early 1800s, if I remember correctly, where a soldier, a Spanish soldier in Spain, was on guard duty outside of some kind of a fort or something that he in the city. It might have been, I don't know, in a city in Spain. He came up missing. About a month later, a letter shows up to his unit saying, "We have your soldier here. He showed up at our police station on the date that he and he gave the date, and it was the date that he disappeared." The thing is that police station was in Colombia. Yeah, in the Americas. And there's no way he could have gotten from Spain to Colombia in a day. And they told basically they were telling the Spanish army, "This is we're putting him on a ship and he'll be back. We got him on we're putting him on a ship and he'll be back to you in, you know, a month or so." And it gave the names of the soldier and the locations and the times, and it was kind of an amazing story. You were like, man, that actually happened, you know. And then it kind of swears, I remember at the bottom of the story, that this had all been like verified by the authorities on both continents, and that it was a great mystery. I even think they said they had I think they said they even had like a scientist trying to figure out how it could have happened. And I think that's how the story ends, if I remember correctly. I haven't read it in a long time. You know the story I'm talking about?
I could barely hear
You
it.
could barely hear it?
Yeah, I was in the bathroom.
Okay.
So I couldn't really hear it. I think you've told me that
In
story
the
before.
1800s, a dude went missing from guard duty.
Oh,
in
yeah,
Spain.
I remember.
And then all of a sudden, they get a letter back fucking about a month or so later that says, "We got your soldier here. He's in Colombia."
Yeah, that's right.
And
I
he
remember
showed
you
up on the
telling
same
me
day
that
that you
story.
missed, and they said, "We're sending to you when we're ready." And then in that little story, it said that they had a scientist over there, and they had a scientist in Spain trying to figure out how it could have happened. And that's kind of how I remember the story. And the thing is that the way the story was written in my book was writing it as talking about the story in a much older newspaper. But there's no proof that older newspaper existed or any of those people existed. So
not
the
like you
story
could
may
check.
not have been as old as the 1800s. It might have been 1900s.
Yeah. I mean,
Mid-1900s.
people were fucking trolling back then.
They were
too.
trolling even back then.
It's not new.
Yeah.
One of the other stories that I just remember, I didn't write down all the details, and I don't remember the kid's name, but one of the other missing 411 stories that I thought was kind of funny, it also involved a little kid. I don't remember how old the kid was, but he went missing for a time, and this was kind of more like a national park. I don't think it was the Everglades, but it was kind of more like a swamp area, national park, and he went missing for a long time, and they couldn't find him. And then when they did find him, he was reportedly clinging to a tree on this little island thing, or like a little patch of ground in the middle of this big swamp. But he was dry, and they couldn't figure out how he got there, like without getting wet, like because he's just on this tree with this little on this little patch of ground.
Yeah.
And when they asked him about it, he said something about being like the cows brought him there, like he was like afraid of cows.
Cows
So
brought him there.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember all the details exactly, but I just remember reading that one and being like, "What?"
That's funny.
Like yeah, so
Yeah.
he ends up on this tree and like he's not wet, so it's like so cows put him by the tree. How did that happen? I don't really know.
I don't know.
Cows.
So
I'm not really sure.
So that's probably about. That's probably a good place to end the show. Probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
SideQuest is telling you that the dude texted me again today.
Yeah, I was reading it. I was reading it. Yeah,
okay.
the Afghan guy. From
Okay.
yeah, he's an Afghan soldier. Just SideQuest. She's a female soldier from she served in Afghanistan, and she met this dude over a damn dating app, but she didn't want to meet him. But he hadn't talked to her in a long time. She said I guess it's about a month probably. And he messaged her back. So I was fucking with her. I said, "Go ahead, send him a dick pic." She goes, "No, I'd rather I'd rather fucking talk about something or other and be shitting my brains out all night." That's all I did.
Gotta watch some
At least you can
stalkers, man.
see. At least you can verify that you're not missing out on anything. You know.
Well, you don't need a dick pic to know you're not missing out on anything.
That shit's probably fucking.
No dick is worth all of
Shit's
the
probably
aggravation.
fucking small and uncut and fucking furry as a motherfucker.
I never understood like why dudes send dick pics.
All you gotta do is ask for one.
I know why they do.
Yeah,
because they get off on
Yeah.
like, hey, you have to look at my dick.
Yeah.
Like it's
No, they
some
think it's
kind
gonna impress you.
It's kind of weird power
They
play.
think it's gonna impress you.
They're stupid then.
Yeah. Well, they'd like to see something of you.
Right,
So
but
they're
see,
they're projected.
that just shows how unself-aware they are, because
Yeah,
it's like no woman anywhere wants unsolicited dick pics, for Christ's sake.
No, that's his fantasy, though, that he get unsolicited boob shots from chicks. So
Yeah, dudes like that.
Yeah,
Chicks don't like that. Like, I would like a dick pic from somebody I know that I'm dating, but it's just kind of like, just random ass dude.
Yeah,
It's like, what?
Tammy knows about the fucking pedo cows dressed as fucking schoolboys. We're gonna have to fucking see that.
Now we got pedophile cows and
Pedo
Boy
cows
Scouts.
dressed as schoolboys.
The AI won't let me do that.
They're trying to
because
insinuate themselves
cows
into the group of children.
in Boy Scout uniform.
You can't trust fucking cows.
Fucking cows. You don't know
Yeah.
what they're up to.
Yeah.
Standing there in the field, like, pretending to be all dumb and mooing and stuff. And
chewing.
It's just mooing and chewing.
Chewing shit.
It is.
Yeah. Looking. They
What?
look
We're
and
just
shit.
completely innocuous.
Yeah.
What do you? They could be up to all kind of nefarious shit.
Yeah. All right, shut it down.
I don't know why I just thought of this. Was
Yeah.
speaking of cows,
Yeah.
but a print shop I used to work at, like the two guys that owned it, they had the best. You can probably still get this now, but they had the best fucking lamp. That was like the top of it was a UFO,
Yeah.
and then the base was a beam. Like
Yeah.
it was clear, and then there was a little cow in the middle being sucked up into
being sucked up,
the UFO.
Yeah.
But it was like a lamp, and like the beam lit up. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I think you can get them on Amazon probably, but I loved that fucking lamp. It was so great. Yeah. But okay, so that's gonna be. We're gonna talk about that on sidetracks, like pedo cows and Bigfoot with a Boy Scout uniform on. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up. It's almost 11 o'clock. I'm kind of hungry again. Why is that?
Would you want to go to Circle K?
I mean, I guess we could. But yeah, all right, so we're going to wrap it up this evening. Hopefully you guys had a fun time on the show. This was actually an entertaining show. So like I said, it took me a long time to research it because there's so many cases. And I kind of had to like read through all these cases and like winnow through ones that I thought were interesting enough to talk about. But there's tons of other ones. Like I said, the dude's written like 10 books worth of stuff. So there's lots of shit out there. And there's lots of other YouTube videos where he's talking about it. He's got a channel, and there's like a bunch of other channels where they talk about a bunch of these cases too. So if you want like more details than my drunk ass was able to give, then I'm sure you can find that if you want to. So yeah, thank you everybody for dropping by this evening, and remember, drop by on Friday night for our sidetrack show, which, like I said, no topic, is just we just drink and hang out and talk about whatever comes up, and it's always super fun. So hopefully you guys can hang out with us on Friday night as well. Have a good rest of your evening. You guys have a good day tomorrow, and we will see you guys again on Friday night.